Eric, we're going to start off Primetime Crisis with a thing that you didn't watch and you can just relax for a little bit.
Sure.
Because this is going to be me and DJ, who folks aren't familiar with yet, but he should start coming on the channel some. He's really cool. DJ has been a viewer of ours going all the way back to 2010, and I invited him to chat with me about Bates Motel because we both watched it at the same time, and we kind of let that get out of hand a little bit because we had a lot to say. So anyway, I'm going to cut right now to that, and then Eric and I just after that are going to talk a little bit about the first season of Young Justice. So look forward to that and stick around. We'll be back in just a little bit. I am joined right now by DJ, who's going to help me talk about the last season of Bates Motel. And DJ has been watching the channel since the beginning, like going all the way back. DJ.
Yeah, I think it was actually early 2010, so a few months after you started.
Yeah, that's crazy. And DJ has been a patron with us for a long time, and I've been getting to know him. And he is the only person I know who loves this show and who happened to watch it at precisely the time I did. So I was talking to DJ last week on a Patreon live show, and he was like, "Oh, Cap, we have to talk about Bates Motel because I just finished it." And I was like, "Oh my God, like I did that yesterday. I just finished it like yesterday when we talked." And so anyway, he and I talked about this for like half an hour the other night, and then we went off and talked about all kinds of other stuff. And DJ's great, and I'm having a lot of fun with him. So I invited him on so that we could have a little extra section here on Primetime Crisis to chat about the show. And DJ's going to have me at a little bit of a disadvantage because he's gone back and did you rewatch the entire season? I know you watched some of it.
I did. I actually got a chance. I finished the last episode this morning.
Okay, cool. So what I want to do is do a little bit of just kind of like at the beginning of this overview, how we felt in general. We'll do like a little how we felt about DJ in general about where we were like right as the season ended. And then as we've had time to mull it over and what we think about it now. And then we'll do a little bit of spoiler stuff for folks that have had a chance to finish the series. So let's go ahead and get into that. DJ, as I told you the other night, going through that season, like I couldn't stop watching it, and I had other things to do. I should have been working, and I just could not turn away. And I've had that with every season, and I was completely enamored and sucked in. But I started questioning things in like the last half hour, and some of it was simply, I don't know if it did what I wanted it to. Like, I want to be won over by it, and I will go back and rewatch the entire season at some point. But the big thing I was left, well, the big two things I should say that I was left with, without spoiling anything yet, was I don't know if I have a complete understanding of what the psychosis ultimately is once we have all the pieces of it. And the second thing is, I don't know if, well, I guess I gotta be careful not spoiling things, but I don't know if I love just where the status quo is left at the end of it. Did you have that same kind of, bittersweet, almost like sinking feeling at the end, or were you like all about the last half hour of that show?
No, actually, the first time I watched it, the last two episodes is kind of where it lost me.
Interesting.
I thought 9 was pretty superfluous. I thought they could have cut that episode entirely, and 10 just, that's where it kind of all fell apart for me. Not completely. I still like a lot of stuff they did with certain characters, but as you know, something they do with other characters is
yeah. So did it hold up better on a second watch? Like did some of the pieces come together and you're like, oh, I see what you're doing?
Some of the stuff did. I came around on. I told you earlier. I came around on a couple things. Most of that was earlier on. I had some problems in a few of the other episodes, but I hate to say, the ending. I was not won over.
You still feel the same way about. Oh no, that sucks. So the only hope you have now is a complete show rewatch.
Yes, if we watch the entire show, maybe it'll make sense. But yeah, I like to get into the details of that later. But yeah, it didn't completely win me over on that yet.
So DJ is a big fan of the original Psycho and just this mythology in the first place. How did you, again, especially on a first watch, feel about the way this season dramatized the movie? Because for folks that don't know, it goes up to Psycho and past it, and without saying too much, goes totally its own way. It paves over Psycho. It brings in the Marion character, but she's a very different person. Her husband is a very different character now, and he's actually still married. Which, for the drama of that, I think you sort of have to do, because in present day, nobody's going to bat an eye at someone dating while they're getting divorced. So I get why we had to move away from that. But were you turned off by that? Were you hoping that Psycho would be kind of preserved in that, or in this, or is that impossible with the complexities they've added to the psychology?
So season 4, when it ended, I was shocked because we were basically right where we needed to be for Psycho the movie. And I was like, what? I turned to my wife. I was like, what in the world are they going to do for season 5? Is season 5 just going to be the movie? And that's what I said. And then that's kind of what they did. But it wasn't the whole season 5. It's only like the 3 episodes in the middle, I think, is where it is. But for the most part,
she's established right away, but you don't necessarily notice immediately that it's her, without saying too much. But like Sam Loomis, we get in that very first episode, and we know it's him, and that name is thrown around. And if you're familiar with that material, you'd know that he's going to enter the picture soon because the girl at the paint shop, Loomis is her last name, and so you probably are guessing that she's related to, or that she's maybe using an alias and is actually really Marion for some reason. I bet some people have that thought.
Yeah, or it could have just been like a reference. Like they've done that earlier in the show, I think. Like they just threw in names from other people. Yeah. So for the most part, I liked what they did with the Psycho movie stuff. All the shots that they recreated and the situations were done way better than the 90s movie. It wasn't like laughable every time they came on the stage. I actually liked a lot of them. And a lot of I don't know if you noticed this. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen Psycho, but a lot of the scenes where Norman was talking to the sheriff were kind of reenacting the scenes of him talking to the private investigator in the movie. And
And of course, he has a ton of reused dialogue when he's talking to Marion, but they use it in different contexts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really. I'll bring up a line that I really liked later. I don't know.
Did they suddenly? Yeah, and we'll get into spoilers territory here in a second. Was the whole eating candy thing established before this season, or did we just suddenly start doing that?
Yeah, that's just a Psycho movie thing that I think they wanted to do.
But as far as the cinematography and aesthetics and stuff, I think that is a testament to how much of a tour de force the show is visually and production wise. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. And when you and I talked before, we both talked a lot about how this is not generally the kind of thing we usually would be drawn in by, and we almost were trying to like solve the mystery of why the two of us could not turn away from looking at this show. And I think a lot of it is because of how authentically it captures the tone of that film, even if the story and the psychology of it is very, very different.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, this isn't something I like. I don't like horror stuff very often. And like I said, I finished the season in 3 episodes in 3 days.
Yeah.
And I think the first 2 seasons, I got the flu one season. I think it was season 2, and I watched it in like a day and a half. I just like watched the entire thing. So I don't know what it is.
The seasons are short, and like it's paced obviously in a real cinematic kind of way. And I mean, I know a lot of TV is that way now, so it's hard to like, you know, a decade ago we would be praising it a lot harder for that, but I think it's impressive how much they're able to get done in one episode by still feeling like there's plenty of the kind of downtime you need for a thing like this. Like it doesn't feel like it needs any more than it does, but it's also not horribly decompressed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so impressive that they can end almost every episode on a cliffhanger, and it never feels like forced or contrived or anything. And there's never too much stuff. It's not like the Netflix Marvel shows problems that we're having now, where they have too much content for their. It always seems like 10 episodes is the right amount, except for this last season, which I'll get into a little later, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't have what you had with 9, but we'll see if I buy what you're selling when you get into that.
Okay.
So the thing with the thing that impressed me right away at the beginning of this show was that it's able to have that. It starts off with the same intensity that film has from day one, and it doesn't start before the story starts. Which is a fear you'd have with a thing like this. I think part of the reason I love this show so much is because it does a lot of the stuff right that I thought Smallville got wrong. Like, it's very Smallville in being a prequel reimagining thing, and it doesn't feel like it starts too early, but it also doesn't feel like it's like forcing things in order to have like enough horror elements and enough kills and that kind of thing. Like, I always, for the most part, like, buy it when we go to those really super, horrifying, intense places. They managed to make 5 seasons of Psycho. It's not Psycho before Psycho. It's Psycho for 5 seasons. That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, I mean, technically they did start before the story starts, but they made you believe that
they don't start before their story starts.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the point I'm making. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a great job. I don't know why it's so good. It doesn't have the right to be so good. Nothing else based on that original movie has ever been good.
No, and when that was announced, I was like, that gets canceled in 10 episodes. Like, I didn't expect to I didn't expect to care. And it's funny because that and Hannibal were announced around the same time, and I was like, okay, so this is a fad we're trying to start that's not going to work and catch on. And wouldn't you know it worked for both shows. It's really sad that Hannibal got canceled, and I've only seen a little bit of that, but like, it has actually turned into a trend that has been really successful and continued on further. And we keep hearing about other shows that are being announced, like that. I don't know how well that Scream show is doing, but I watched some of that, and I have no idea what I think of that. But that is, but like that came out just the other day, and we'll talk about this in the Captain's Log. There was an announcement for a Child's Play series. Like, we can't stop making TV shows, based on this material, or based on horror franchises, especially slashers. And I think Psycho and Bates Motel and Hannibal are the reasons, because they're both wonderful shows that people really like, and people that I think a lot of people won over to this kind of genre that don't usually watch it, just like the two of us.
Yeah. I think Bates Motel's fan base is mostly younger people who probably haven't even seen Psycho, or like me, went back to it after. I don't know your relationship with Psycho. When did you see it first?
College. Probably 14, 15 years ago. I'm trying to sorry, 40, because I said college and then I said 14, 15 years ago. That would be high school, but I think I might, now that I'm thinking about it, but then I started thinking about years. No, I think I saw it in high school.
Okay,
cool. Now that I'm thinking about it.
That was on my list of shame. I hadn't seen it yet until I watched the first 2 seasons of the show. And
I know what it was. I took a film class senior year of high school, and we had to do a paper on a couple of movies from the AFI Top 100, and that's one of the movies I did. That's what it was.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I've seen it. I had seen it since then, and I did go back and look at it again in preparation for this, because it had been so long, and that is a weird experience, right? Like, watching this season and then going back to Psycho, and so real quick, and then we'll get into spoilers. Bottom line, love this show. Don't feel like they quite stick the landing.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. I kind of feel the same way. I don't know. Actually, I don't know which one of us likes it better now. I thought I knew, but now that I've gone back, I don't. I feel like you really, really had a problem with the ending. I don't think it's going to ruin the show for me. I think I'll be able to go back to it. Do you think you'll be able to go back to it?
I'm planning on it, yeah. Okay. But let's go ahead and just get into spoiler territory now, because
I'm like, I can't. I feel
again, if you don't want to know any of this, just skip ahead to the next timestamp. We've got other shows we're talking about this week, but okay. So DJ, the first thing I want to ask you about is something you said to me yesterday, which is you said there are some things that in season 5 they're kind of hoping you'll forget about. What are you referring to?
Well, I meant that there's things from the other seasons that they want you to.
No, I know, and I want to know what those are, because I was concerned about retconning, and I want to know, now that you've looked at 5 again, if you think there's some of that going on.
I am convinced that they have retconned Emma's mom. I went back and looked at the whole scene. I don't know if you remember that episode in season 4. There's the pit. There's this giant pit in the front of the hotel. And there's this whole like mystery of if Norman buried her in that pit. Norma jumps down in, she looks through it, she can't find anything. She finds a glove. Then later on, one of the workers that fills in the pit gives her an earring. And I think it's very clear that it's supposed to be that he buried her in that pit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's in the lake at the end of this, just so they can have closure with Emma's mom. Which
I assumed that I just missed something, and like you could say, well, something happened in those 2 years, but why would you go from the pit to that? You've already buried her. Like, what is the point of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was something. I'm okay with the whole doctor thing. I don't think they retcon anything there. I think they just kind of shocked us for no reason.
He's talking about. I still have an issue with that. Not continuity wise, but I just want to know why he did it, and so. And
that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, DJ's referring to the psychiatrist who's really well acted, and I wish we had gotten more with him. But he shows up in one scene this season trying to convince Norman to go back to therapy, and then it's revealed later in almost like an off the like just an offbeat, like just throwaway kind of way, right? That Norman or that he's been missing, and the assumption we're supposed to make is that Norman, I guess, as the mother, killed him, because that would have been well before the shower kill, and that's supposed to be the first time that he kills of his own accord. And so I don't know if he stopped going to therapy, why she would feel the need to do that.
Yeah, I'm assuming something must have happened while they were having therapy or something. I don't know. It doesn't tell you anything.
Here's what I can't remember, though. Didn't he stop going to therapy before the time jump, or was that supposed to be in the time jump?
Yeah, I think the reason he signs off to let Norman out of the institution is because he agrees to do therapy. So I think that's where we leave it in season 4.
And we've already left it there. Yeah. Did it? I asked you this the other day, but I'll ask you it again because I forgot what you said. Did it take you a little bit to figure out just how far in the future we jumped? Because it took me a couple episodes to realize just how far we got. And part of it was I hadn't seen season 4 in a while, so I kept wrestling with my own memory, going, wait a minute, did we marry off Dylan and Emma already? No, we didn't do that. That's a reveal now. Okay. I knew the baby was a reveal, but there were other parts of that. So I was just like, how long is the jump? And I think they do a good enough job of letting you know that, in a really natural kind of way. But I was wrestling with my own memory because it had been a while.
Yeah, same thing. I hadn't watched season 4 in a while, but the baby thing and Emma and Dylan did give it away for me. That's pretty. I think that's the first episode, but I still don't know. I don't know if they ever come out and say how long the time jump is.
It's like after the teaser. The big tell is how long Romero's been in prison.
Oh, okay.
Because they tell us he's been there for 2 years, and we know when that happened. Wow.
Okay. I don't know if I ever realized it was that long. That's a long time. No wonder you went insane.
But I feel like I'm glad they did that, because you want Norman without his real mother, with the psychosis, in the hotel for a good long time without a lot of people going there.
Yeah. I'm really glad that it didn't just.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
I'm really glad that it wasn't just like his mom dies and then Psycho starts right away. I'm really glad. I actually love the time jump.
I would love to know if anyone stayed at that hotel in those 2 years.
I think so. I think the way he talks about it is like he's been running the hotel, and it's just been like business as usual. And Chick has been like helping him out with things, and like they keep mentioning that he's been like doing things around the house and stuff. Okay, he's really familiar with Chick.
Yeah,
we didn't really get to see that happen.
Here's my problem with that, and tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong about this, I would love to be wrong about this. I don't feel like, because of the way we've changed Marion, that the mother personality has enough of a reason to wish that Norman had murdered her. I don't really know what that's about. I get why she wants him to murder Sam a little bit more, trying to turn him more into her, and she wants revenge on men who do bad things to women, and there's a catharsis there. I get that, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm kind of coming around a little bit on him going that far with that one, I guess. Although I'm still not totally sure about it. We should talk about that, but I don't know why she's like, you shouldn't have let her get away. Is there something she knows that could come back to haunt them or something? I don't know what that's about. because it's no longer I'm jealous of her because you're physically attracted to her, unless that is partly what it's supposed to be. And that whole thing is weird because she doesn't look like her anymore, and it's Sam's actual wife who looks like her, and so I don't know why he's looking through the peephole. I don't get any of that anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of just he's attracted to her. He looks through it. I don't know. Like that's the whole thing with the.
Look, it's Rihanna. I get it. Okay, like sure, she's attractive. I'm not saying he can only be attracted to women who look exactly like his mother, but I don't know that. But the sense I get then is that he's probably done that with a lot of women and just put them in room one and then looked through the peephole. And if that's the case, why aren't they all dead? That's all I'm asking.
Well, and that's the thing. He just looks through for a minute there. And then he closes it. He doesn't go as far as he does earlier when Sam's in the room, which you know what I'm talking about. And
yes, I know what you're talking about, right? Because he's seeing them actually engaged in physical activity.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually, and that's the thing. I actually don't know why if the mother personality is that jealous and wants to take over, I don't know why he doesn't murder her. He just kind of. He puts the thing over and then he just kind of stands there for a long time, and then we watch her finish the whole shower, and then she finally comes out and goes into the room and he's still standing there just kind of like
and that's shaking. Just to surprise us because we expect it to happen there.
Yeah.
And of course they do that in the very first episode, going all the way back where they make you think maybe there's going to be a shower kill in the first episode, if memory serves.
All the way back
if I'm remembering right, it seems like, and of course we use a bathtub in disposing of a body, because it's Psycho when we have to use a bathtub. But okay, so I didn't get the sense that she was really all that jealous of Rihanna Marion.
Yeah. That
the only thing you had to glean on with that, I think, unless I feel differently on a second viewing, is Psycho. That's what it is there.
Yeah, and there's things in the show where they rely on your knowledge of the movie sometimes instead of what they've built this whole time, which is kind of a problem. Like I said, the psychosis is pretty different. The reveal that we get, and this is why I'm okay. I'm actually more okay with what I told you the other night, what I called the pep talk scene where she talks him up into murdering him and then he murders him real quick. Yeah. I'm actually more okay with that because that was a much bigger revelation than I realized the first time. That's the first time that Norman understands anything that's happening. He's been, and this is what I was talking about. I keep going all over the place. No, this is what I was talking about with Norman and Norma. I feel like this whole season is a power struggle between the two of them. The very first episode, Norma brings up that she's done nothing but sacrifice for him, and Norman is already questioning it because he's having he found luminol and he's learning about what's his name, the guy who they murder who looks like Mike from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I don't remember his name right now.
I don't remember his name, but he's finding out about that. He's starting to ask questions.
Is that Jim?
Jim Blackwell.
The guy, Jim Blackwell, the guy that the sheriff sends after him to assassinate him or assassinate him. He's not the president, but to murder him. Yeah. Yeah,
it's really hard to remember him because he's only in like 2 seconds of flashbacks, and you don't even get to see him on screen very long. But But yeah, he's been learning about him. He's actually asking questions, and he's been begging Norma to tell him everything. And she finally tells him everything in that moment. And there's that great scene where she's like screaming and throwing stuff around and making him say that she's real. Did you like that scene?
Yeah, I did, because we've all the way through the season, we've done really fun things with what's in Norman's head versus what things actually look like. Yeah. So we'll cut back to the kitchen, and he hasn't done dishes in 2 years, and it's really creepy and messed up. Yeah, it's great.
The end of that scene, he's leaning on her shoulder, and then it cuts away, and he's just like standing there. It's super creepy, but I really like that scene because that was him finally acknowledging that she was that he made her up.
Well, they're both in denial, I think, is supposed to be the idea, because she's really a fully realized character, even though she's a part of his psychology and a different personality. And I think both of them subconsciously have to know what's going on, and that's why when at the end like her personality disappears, which I don't understand. And then Norman is in complete denial then and pretends like he's going all the way back to the beginning of first season. That's like an escalation of the denial, I think. Like you're right when you say that when she gives him that pep talk right before the shower kill, that's the first time he's like fully appreciating everything that's going on. But there are parts of him that have to understand. Like there's a really cool foreshadowing thing that happens when early on in the season she keeps saying like I'm dead, and like it's supposed to be. She's trying to play it up like everyone thinks I'm dead, but a part of her knows that she's actually dead. Especially because Norman keeps going back to the corpse. So he has to know something. He knows what that is.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I came around on the doctor scene. So I'll explain that.
Okay.
Because I know you probably think I'm crazy. But that was actually, it might not, the way they handled it might be a little weird, but I love that he did that because this whole time he's been getting a little closer to the truth, and he finally I feel like that scene was just his mind getting him to the point, because all he gets from that conversation is that the coping mechanisms that they learned about when he was in sessions with him. He gets that he used to sometimes he dresses up as his mother and sometimes he becomes her, or sometimes he speaks to her when she's not there and sometimes he becomes her. I feel like that was his mind just getting him to that place where he actually recognizes that, and talking to him was just the way that he did it. I don't know if he actually went into that coffee shop and talked to himself in front of all those people for like 10 minutes, or if he just did it on the drive home and like that's how his subconsciousness like portrayed it. But
See,
I want
to go back and look at that scene again now, because like I remember some people in that scene maybe turning and looking at him, like maybe they actually did it that way, where everybody's seeing this guy just talking to himself, and it's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. No one, like, I feel like someone would have came up to him, or like one of the baristas would have asked him to leave or something, but whatever. But yeah, I really liked the revelation in that scene that he just because it got him a lot closer to the scene where he eventually murders Sam.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I just think that all along there's at least some piece of him that knows that certain things that he's seeing can't be real. Like because how do you account for the corpse? Like, what is he doing with that if he thinks that if he's 100% certain that his mother is actually alive and that they're just and I like that premise that like he's pretending like she's dead, but she actually is dead, and I like all that. I think that's really interesting, a lot of fun. The series does a great job of keeping him sympathetic all the way through. The issue that I had before the show started, or the thing that I was worried about, was like, how do you get in that kid's head and like keep us interested in him as a protagonist? And I think it's overall handled incredibly well. Where like he keeps trying to be a better person, and he just can't help himself, because he's very often not responsible for the things he's doing. But I also feel like he has a lot of opportunities for change that he doesn't take, that might have led to he at least getting help, or even or even solving the psychosis a lot earlier, or at least working toward it.
Yeah, he continues to refuse help, especially from Dylan, which is really heartbreaking at the end of the season. But I was just gonna say something I forgot. What were we just talking about?
Just the main point that he
keeping him sympathetic
protagonist.
Yes. So actually, I don't think you've read the book, but he's not very sympathetic in the book. He's actually more of like a serial killer type. He's like 40. He's real overweight, and he has glasses. He's different.
I think at least physically and the way his personality is handled, I think they might be looking at him for chick.
That's interesting. Let me finish what I was saying, because I don't want people to think overweight people with glasses are inherently not sympathetic. I didn't say that. But he's a lot more. He reads a lot of books about like the occult, and a lot of he's into like a lot of like demon possession stuff, and he's really just like there's no spark between them, like in the movie where between him and Mary. I'm gonna call her Mary sometimes because her name's Mary in the book, and they changed to Marion, so it's really confusing to me. But
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, okay.
between him and Marion, there's kind of like, I mean, she doesn't like him or anything, but I mean, they're flirting and stuff. But in the book, he's just like this pathetic dude, and she's really like turned off by him, and she leaves really early. She actually eats in his kitchen in the book. They changed it to the office in the movie and the show, but it's really creepy in the book. She actually goes up to the house with him.
I bet, yeah.
But
I thought they might go there in the series.
yeah, I mean, because they do so much in the kitchen. I love that kitchen. It's super
I do too.
creepy.
Yeah,
it's really cool. I love the whole.
One of
house.
my big takeaways is that house is amazing, and I want like a model of it or something. Like, and going back to the movie, it is really cool. Going back to Psycho after watching this, it's really surreal. That I mean, it is an exact recreation.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get to see much of it in the movie, but what you do see is like exactly the same. That staircase right there. The
You see enough of it, though, and the kitchen is exactly the same.
Yeah,
You see it.
But yeah.
How do you feel about the taxidermy thing? Because having gone back to Psycho, I wanted to make sure that we covered that, and then before we finish, we should break down the weird disappearing personality thing because I don't know what's going on.
I do want to talk about Chick for a minute because it's a crime we haven't talked about Chick because he's hilarious.
No, because he's hilarious. Yeah. Okay, so there's our itinerary for the rest of this segment. Let's make sure we don't forget any of those parts. In the movie, the taxidermy isn't just a thing to make him creepy because he like kills animals and then that is an escalation to killing people. It is inherently creepy, but there's a major symbol going on with the bird where he talks about how he's caged and how he and how like everyone kind of creates their own prison and he was born into his, and the birds I think are supposed to represent his wishing that he could just fly away from the world that he feels like he's forced into. The taxidermy in the TV show is a totally different thing, and I'm really not sure how to read it except being unwilling to move on and trying to preserve your past. That's the only read I've got on it. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just birds anymore. But like he's not willing to let go and acknowledge that things end, and that's the only way that's working as any kind of representation of anything now, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is weird that the movie makes I mean, they don't have to stick to the movie; they can do whatever they want. But like I said, he makes
but it's gotta mean something. It can't just be there because it's I mean, I don't mean everything has to be symbolic. I just mean that like there's got to be some reason it's there beyond just he does taxidermy in the movie, because otherwise it looks like they don't understand why he does taxidermy in the movie. Yeah,
and it's weird that he went out of his way to say he only does birds in the movie, and then they made a distinct choice to change it. But we're not really sure why they changed it. Just other than that, he can have his dog, which is really creepy, but I don't know where that eventually goes.
But see, again, I think that might be kind of a foreshadowing thing where he's going to do exactly the same thing with his mother. I almost wish we went as far as to have him do taxidermy on his mom, and I don't think, or does he? I don't think he does that. But like, I wish there was like an embalming thing or something.
And that was my biggest problem with the taxidermy thing. Is that's what he does in the book and in the movie? He preserves his mom. She's been in the ground for a little bit, so that's why it doesn't work that well. But in the movie or in the show, he doesn't preserve. He puts her in a freezer. I was so confused by that. Did you notice that? He froze her.
Yeah.
Like, Caleb was like, he dug up his mom and froze her. Who does that? Like,
well, and what's weird about that too is
you built in the reason that he could preserve her. I don't know why.
Is the mother personality digging up herself, or does he dig her up without the personality because she's been freezing bodies? Why would they both freeze bodies unless it's her every time?
I don't know. And that's the thing. In the movie and the book, he develops the mother personality after he digs her up, which is this will tie into the ending when we're talking about the personality thing. So I'll wait for that. But let's talk about Chick for a minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go right ahead.
Chick is hilarious.
He's hilarious. I don't ultimately like the writing a book thing because it's just a dropped thread, and I don't mean that we forget about it. I just mean that we murder him to get him out of the way, and I wish we were doing something with it. I thought that was going to be like a Rorschach's journal kind
of. I know. I thought he was going to someone was going to find it at the end, and then they were going to do a sequel where Norman Bates ended up in the DC universe or something.
But yeah, but not for like 30 years.
Yeah,
it was a really long time before we get to that. No, the issue with that whole thing. I'm sorry, I know you want to talk about Chick.
No worries.
The issue with the book writing thing and just the way it's ending there's no mystery. Everyone knows everything at the end, or at least they know kind of too much. And like, I hesitate saying that because I think this is mostly just based on my own personal preference and where I was hoping we would leave this. I was kind of hoping we would have an open-ended status quo. Like, isn't that where you want the show to end? Where he's still in that hotel? Yeah. That's where I wanted it to end. And again, I'm wanting to be won over, but I'm partly not because I feel like they just wanted to make sure that they wouldn't get a lot of fan mail saying, please make another one because Norman Bates is still alive. Like, I feel like it's almost a Dark Knight Rises kind of scenario where it's like we've got to end it definitively so there's no hope for a future of the show.
I think it's also they wanted that kind of, which I think was kind of sappy. I don't really like when things do that, where he wanted to die to be reunited with his mother, and they wanted to give him like a happy ending, which I don't know if that's really happy or not, or if that's
I mean, it's super depressing, but for him in its way, like I get what they're going for, that's supposed to be kind of perverse, and that like the only way he'll be happy is if they're together because it's supposed to be, him and her forever, and she was actually his one true love, which is really disturbing and screwed up and all of that. But it's like I get that, and I also think that part of it is, again, in his being a caring human being who has this completely screwed up psychology and has gone too far over the edge where he actually does murder people now, but he still has remorse and feels bad about it and doesn't want to be that person. And I think part of that at the end is an epic sacrifice. I think that's what it's supposed to be. But that's not, I don't know, like, I thought that was a little bit of a lame way to end it.
Yeah, I wasn't won over by it. Also, I think I'm so torn on Chick's death.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I hate it. I love him so much. But
it's really funny.
It's the best. Exactly. It's the funniest line ever.
It's so funny.
He says, what does he say? He says, more surprise than the brain would allow you to imagine. And then he gets shot in the face. It's really funny. It's like the best death I've ever seen, but I hate it at the same time because he didn't. I wanted him to get to see Norman again.
I didn't feel like we were finished with him. They treat it like they have nothing left to say with him, and I disagree. Do you buy that Romero? This is a whole other topic, but I think we should bring it up real fast. Do you buy that Romero goes as far as he does?
Yeah, I might need to rewatch the other seasons. I never got the sense that he was that in love with Norma.
Me neither. He married her reluctantly, and he had feelings for her, but it was more just he was kind of wrapped up in that world and couldn't get out of it, which is interesting comparing him, to Norman, who is in that same place. This is a woman that kind of wraps people up in her world, and obviously Norman becomes that way too. But I just kind of. Again, I get what we're trying to do, but I don't know if I fully buy it, where he's descending into madness and doesn't even realize it, where he's just as bad as they are by the end.
Yeah, I don't know if I bought him going on this whole revenge kick that much. Maybe if I watch him again, if I watch the season 4 again, I'll see what he sees in her. But
that's what I thought. But
I didn't buy it that much. But I do, after rewatching it, even though I hate that he does it, I feel like that is what he would do to Chick. I feel like he would have shot Chick.
No, I do too. I do too. So just don't put them in a scene together, or have Chick get like one over on him or something, one up on him or something. But yeah,
have Chick shut up and stop making him angry. He kept saying things.
I don't want to rewrite the story. I always say that. But this is just my personal preference. You know how I wish the show ended. I'm not saying it's bad because they didn't do this. You know how I wish it ended. Chick should be in that house. The series should end with him taking over the Bates Motel. That's how it should end.
Exactly, and he tells the story. But like you said, everybody knows the story. It's not like a secret. So I don't know what he's besides.
No, you would have to fundamentally change the story they're telling if you did that. Because and here's the thing, and I can't decide if this is too forced or not. I like that Norman is trying to hold on to his humanity and feels so bad about the one time he actually finally went as far as the mother personality, and he calls the police and says, "I murdered Sam Loomis." That's a great cliffhanger, by the way. And where in the world is that going to go? But if he hadn't done that, if she could have stopped him, nobody would have ever known anything. And it just I'm trying to decide if that was a character-driven thing, or if it was a plot device because we're trying to figure out how to end our season, or if it's decently character-driven, but obviously the main reason they decided to throw it in there was because we've got like 2 episodes left and we have to figure out how to resolve everything.
Yeah, and I feel like the court thing and the lawyer thing was all dragged out too long. I thought the first like 7 episodes are very fast-paced, and everything is just leading right to the next episode. Like I even said that some stuff that I thought was going to last.
Stuff in the interrogation room, right? Like, now that you say that,
yeah, and episode 9 with the hearing and everything, I feel like that.
Yeah,
we keep giving Romero like plot contrivances to keep him from getting there. If he didn't get shot and all this stuff, it gets laughable at the end when he just like runs out of gas. Like that's what they do. He just runs out of gas and goes to a gas station to slow him down a little bit more. If he would have just got there sooner, none of that lawyer or that hearing thing, it didn't really amount to anything because Dylan's just paying the lawyer and like nothing happens. He's going to die in the end anyway. So I feel like they were just padding out that last bit. But I did really like the scene like you were talking about where I feel like it was more character driven because he didn't really just call to tell him that he killed Sam Loomis. He called because he almost killed Dylan. Like that was the main
yes, of course. For it. Yeah.
And I love that scene where
he doesn't want to be that person.
Exactly. And there's a lot of terrifying moments in this season where he's literally losing control. Like she is just taking over a lot now, and he literally can't do anything about it. And,
so let's go there. Why does she relinquish it?
I don't know.
When you get to the end of that season, so you've seen that scene again, and you know the line I'm talking about now. What is she talking about?
There's nothing left to protect you from. It doesn't make any sense. He's on the run. They're gonna arrest him, and he's gonna go. She makes a huge deal. Oh, sorry, I'm getting heated. She makes a huge deal.
Me too.
Out of she makes a huge deal out of him not going to an insane asylum. She doesn't want him to go to an institution. She's fighting. She's blaming it on poor Madeline. So that she doesn't have to go to the mental institution. And then what's going to happen at the end? He's either going to die or he's either going to go to jail and get the death penalty, or he's going to go to a mental institution. She just left him right where he was. I don't know why she went through all the trouble. As
a part of his psyche, she's there to protect him, but she cares about herself also, unless that's all an act, right? Like,
yeah, and that's the thing I want to talk about. In the movie and the book, he creates her because he can't accept the fact that he killed her. He goes completely nuts because he kills her and her husband, and he digs her up and preserves her and does all that just to preserve the illusion that she's not dead because he can't handle the fact that she's dead. So she's basically just his mother. She only says to him things that he like hates about himself. She basically just berates him all the time, and they get in arguments.
And pulls him. There's no give or take. Like
in this, we get that revelation halfway through where she says that he created her when he was small, like really small.
Just after the. No, I guess it was
like while she was beating him.
While she was being beaten by her husband, because it's him that kills the dad.
And the whole reason he created her in this is that so she can do the things that he can't do. He can't bring himself to do. So it's kind of a completely different thing. They're not like two halves of the same person in this, like they are in the movie. They're like two different people.
Yeah.
She has. We didn't even talk about this the other night. The whole bar scene, the homosexual bar scene where she just leaves him for like a day, and she has her own. I don't understand how she can have. I don't
get how you go from that to okay, you don't need me anymore. Bye. Like I don't get that. And even though they are two different people, it's still a part of his psyche. This isn't some kind of like supernatural thing or like I don't know how you rectify that within the idea of the psychology, and it starts to look almost silly. You know what I mean? Where like I'm buying it as a thing that his mind has created this whole time until we suddenly just write it out. Like okay, so tell me if this is what it is. and I don't like this if this is what it is, but is the idea supposed to be, I've now gotten you to the point where you're willing to kill without me standing there telling you to, so you don't need to be protected because I know you'll murder anyone who gets in your way. Is that all that is? But then what is she talking about when because in that scene, that's not all she says. She also says that she has nothing left that he knows everything. He understands everything now. I don't know what that's about. It's not like they've been waiting for Romero to come back with some big revelation. I don't know what that means either.
Yeah, he doesn't learn anything there at that scene. And I don't know and I don't like that either. Sorry, I know I'm not offending your theory, but
no, it's a terrible theory. That's not what it's supposed to be, but it's all I can see. Like,
if it is that though, if that's what they're thinking, then Norman has to be the one that kills Romero. And I don't know if it is. I think that might be Mother. I think that might be the last thing she does. And then I think as soon as she steps back, I think that's when Norman, because she's been in control that whole last 2 episodes.
Well, yeah, that's true. She was in control in the car. Okay, that's way worse though, right? Like if she's in control the whole time, why because then they treat that like this big, huge, like climax. Then it isn't. Like, I realize we've been following Romero the whole season, like breaking out of prison and stuff, which is kind of stretched thin a little bit. Like, I get it. Like, I like that he's able to do all the stuff he can do because he's a sheriff and he has all this inside information and stuff. But like, I don't need to see every single piece of it. If he just showed up at the end with a different car than the one he got in the first place, and he's all disheveled, messed up, I would be like, oh yes, of course he could get here, and he got shot. I don't need to see every one of those scenes. I really don't.
Especially the gas station scene was just hilarious. We're supposed to be all suspense, like someone might see him, he's like looking around, the guy's asking him about his car, and I was like, what is this scene?
Yeah, and it's just supposed to be because he's supposed to be like the arch nemesis now.
Yeah.
And so you get to the end, it's like, we beat our arch nemesis, and so now the status quo is completely changed. That doesn't work at all.
I think that's really what it is. I think she was in control. I think she killed him, and then she stepped back and said, there's nothing to protect you from, which is complete ridiculous.
Well, it's totally contrary to what her motivations have been the whole season. So I don't get that, and I need someone to explain it to me because I don't think it makes sense.
I think I can explain it, and it's production-wise, not story-wise.
Yes, of course. Story-wise, I can't explain that. Yeah, go ahead.
So like I said, there's a power struggle this whole season. Not only has he been trying to suppress her and take control, but she's been taking over more and more. And I think the only way to end that scene is the same way you end the movie, and I don't think they wanted to end it the same way that they ended the movie. I think she takes control completely, and I just think there's how did you watch the show? Because it's not on Netflix yet. Did you watch? Do you have the Blu-ray?
I actually on a whim, like I was at the library a couple weeks ago and they had it there, and so I just borrowed it. I was gonna wait till it dropped on Netflix, but I found it at the librry and I was like, I'm gonna sit down and watch this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So on the Blu-ray, there's this little featurette. It's like 20 minutes.
I should have watched that one.
It's like a fun. Yeah. It's not that great. There's they talk about the story for like the first 5 minutes, and then the rest is just about the cast. I mean, which is interesting, but just doesn't pertain really. But yeah, there's one of the producers on there. She literally says the plan was to get to Psycho, go past Psycho, what did she say? She said was to go through Psycho, was to end it differently, and then send the story off in a different direction. So from the beginning, I think they had this idea that they couldn't end it the same way. And even though their story probably pushed it to the exact same ending, they just didn't want to do it. But
that's really fascinating. Yeah.
But I also think, and let me know what you think of this. I think it could have ended, if they wanted a more positive note, I think instead of going full sappy, I think they could have got Norman to a place where he took full control.
Yeah, me too. And
could have got him there.
No, I think it may be the way to end that then. And again, I wanted him in that house, but that's just what I wanted. I wanted to imagine that he keeps murdering people when people show up at the hotel. Whatever. That's what I wanted. But for the sake of the story, it might have been it might have made a lot more sense and been more compelling if he basically murders her, right?
At the end, right?
Yeah. We're like he's able to get rid of that personality, saying and this would be kind of messed up, right? Where like the first step to that is like getting away from her, where he's willing to do things that only she has been, and then he reels himself, like murdering people, and then he reels himself back and says, this isn't who I am, I don't want to be this person, and then it ends with him going to prison, like of his own accord, like finally.
Yeah. And he, instead of her just leaving, he actually sends her away, and that's his big sacrifice, is he's going to be alone for the rest of his life because he gets rid of the only person that he has. I think that would have been great. I think both of those would have been.
He finally owns up to, which he was trying to do anyway, to the things that he is actually responsible for. But we, the audience, and hopefully some of the people involved, are no longer holding him responsible for things that he's not responsible for. Because that's the big question all the way through that show, is like, how much is he to blame for things? And like Romero goes so far as to just not even care about the psychology.
Yeah, he's not giving him any benefit of the doubt. He's just like, he's crazy. I'm gonna shoot him in the head.
Yeah, but no, you're right. They needed to allow that story to go where that story goes, and there's 2 or 3 different ways that could maybe end up going. And even an epic sacrifice thing where he actually dies could still maybe work, but she has to still be there. I don't get why she would, of her own accord, just say, okay, I'm going to go off to oblivion now.
I'm just going to walk away into the sunset. Yeah, and I'm basing that entirely off that one producer who said that on that one featurette. So I don't know if that's the reasoning, but it seems like they just didn't want to go the same way, where Mother takes over at the end. But like I said, I would have been completely happy if he took over at the end, and that could have been their more happy ending that they wanted. But
that would have been really interesting. DJ, final thoughts. What else do you want to bring up that you haven't gotten to talk about yet?
I really, really like when Chick just says, I want a cookie, and grabs Madeline's bag of cookies. Do you remember that?
No, I forgot about that.
Madeline comes up with some cookies, and she's like, is Norman here? And
then Norman that's right. He just takes one and walks away.
He's like, I want a cookie, and he just grabs one and walks away. But no, he's great. Rewatching it, the biggest thing I noticed was he's in like 3 episodes. He felt like such a presence, and he was only there for like, he's in like the first few, and then he comes back in the one where he dies, and he's barely in it, but he was amazing. I don't know.
Well, some of that is he's looming in the background because he's writing that book, right? Like his presence is still felt because there's this thing he's doing that you think is going to matter in some way.
Yeah, I don't know about that. What did you think of? Let's talk real briefly about. Sorry, I know this is final thoughts, but
sure, no, go ahead.
Emma and I guess Caleb. Those are the 2 characters we didn't talk about.
Yeah,
I did not need Emma to have that closure. I feel like we didn't even know that character. I wasn't with her that whole. I mean, I know it's her mom, and maybe I'm a terrible person, but the whole like she goes up to the mountain and throws her ashes off.
It would have been it would have been nice if we got to know her a little bit more. I had forgotten what the whole history was with them, and like she wasn't around and in her life and stuff. And I'm sure there's some kind of like parallel thing they're trying to do with children and their parents, and how they care about them regardless of what they do to them and all of that. But we just don't have any screen time with them.
Yeah, it was. I think they were just stretching. Like I said, that last. I didn't mention this, but that 9th episode. It's literally, if Romero had got there faster, he would have took Norman and the secretary faster. Like, there's nothing that happens in that scene. I think that's the one with, that episode is the one with Emma that I was just saying, and I don't think that episode needed to be there. But, I don't know. It might have worked. Caleb, they kind of do, it's amazing that they make Caleb so sympathetic.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
It's incredible, because you shouldn't like him. He should be, but...
The way he dies struck me as a little bit contrived.
Yeah. The texting thing was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was weird. But I understand why they felt the need to wrap up stuff with that, I guess. It just also seems a little bit convenient that he shows up just as the ball is getting rolling for the main events for the season, right? Like, he hasn't seen them in all this time, and he doesn't know that Norman died, and he just, like, shows up because they have a baby, and like, he should have maybe been there already. Maybe he's been living in their house for a week, and then Emma tells him to leave. Like, he should have been there already, and that wouldn't have looked as contrived to me.
Yeah, because I can't remember. Is it the baby's first birthday that he finally shows up?
I think that's what it is. Yeah, and I'm not
Okay.
saying that makes no sense. I'm just saying it's all conveniently timed, right? It's like those last 2 years don't matter at all, and now all the important stuff is happening right now, which is the risk you run when you do a time jump like that. And I don't think they totally nailed that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like his death. His funeral was awesome. Chick is just a
Oh yeah,
ball of mysteries. I don't know. He's so weird. Is it me, or is he? Did they change him? I feel like in the last seasons he wasn't that funny and weird. I feel like he was just like a.
I think he just didn't get a lot of screen time, and they decided that they fell in love with him. You know, it's like
Okay.
it's like the Doctor in Voyager. It's like, you know what? No, we want to put him all over the place. Like, he's great.
Yeah, because I did not remember him being like that. But like I said, I've only seen the show once, so
No, when
hopefully I'll go back.
he first shows up, you're supposed to wonder if he's just gonna murder everyone.
I know he's super creepy in the first.
Super creepy. And what I like that he's a human being, but he's also, you know, like out for himself, and he's there for his own selfish reasons. Like, that guy can't, being as super like creepy and weird as he is, it would be kind of cheating if you said he's the most altruistic character in the show. There's something really off about that guy. But I like that he has kind of like a moral code, and he has like this real like naturalistic way of looking at the world. Like I like him connected to Norman in that way. Where like they're both really interested in nature, and he has kind of like a circle of life sort of philosophy.
Yeah, it's amazing that he comes around and like treats Caleb so well. They have a great scene together in the basement. After Caleb, beat the tar out of him last season. And
I didn't need that dream sequence though.
Oh, with Caleb where he sees her?
I felt like that was a little
gimmicky.
That was a little gimmicky. Yeah.
I like that. I don't want everyone in the show to be crazy. I just want Norman to have hallucinations. The same thing with Romero when he gets back in the house.
Well, I mean, I don't mind that he's hallucinating a little bit because of what he's going through, and he's malnourished, and he's not getting enough sleep, and all of that. Okay, fine. It's just they tried to make us think that he got away, and he put the handcuffs, and then she shows up. And no, I don't mind that. No, I actually like the delusional thing of Norman is so much her, like gets her so much that in his stupor he thinks it's her. I love that. That's great.
No, I like
I just don't like the dream sequence where like he breaks out and we think he's gonna get away, and
but no, him
dies is no sillier than that dream sequence.
And him talking to Norman as his sister is super creepy. And I love the scene after where we find out where Chick found him. And he's talking in his tape recorder. He's like, found Norman downstairs, passed out, holding hands with his uncle as Norma. It was just completely crazy.
Yeah, and then he's like, I don't know why watching him listening to his tape recorder playing back to him was really funny to me, but it was.
Yeah, he's great. And I love when he shows up at the crime investigation, and she's like, what's in the bag? He's like, it's a raccoon. He just takes it out, like puts it in her face. He's great.
We're gonna have to go ahead and wrap it up. This went a lot longer than I had intended, but we had a lot to say about this show. So no, that's totally cool. DJ, come back sometime. We'll talk about something else, or maybe if we do a rewatch of the show, we can revisit it at some point.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think a commentary on an episode or two could be cool for the 15 people that care.
I mean, I'm down. I don't know how many views you'd get, but I'd be there.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily care. It'd be fun to do that. But anyway, well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. And we're going to move on now, if you're watching the full omnibus, to the next TV show that Eric and I are talking about on the on Primetime Prices this time. DJ, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here. Back anytime.
Well, now let's talk about something less morbid, shall we? Here comes, although not entirely unmorbid, though. There's a little bit of morbid here and there in the show. Morbid. So here's the thing I'm a little bit late to the party on.
Okay, so let me set this up a little bit.
Yeah,
I
sure.
said in a video previously, I think it might have been last time, I've said it somewhere on the channel, I think Young Justice is the single best adaptation of comics ever.
I think it's the best adaptation of the format of ongoing comic book storytelling,
and I also think it's the living, breathing comic book world. It's using all of the silly elements completely straight.
Yeah.
It is, in my opinion, almost kind of perfect in how it adapts what a comic book run is like.
Yeah, I think so too.
I adore this. This is my favorite superhero cartoon. And I was a little worried that I might have overhyped it.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I gotta say, I was concerned about this because I went ahead and watched this on my own. Eric,
I recently rewatched this as well.
Rewatched both seasons. I think I think we finished with the whole show. And I'd never seen past the pilot, and was intrigued by the pilot because it seemed like a real different thing. But I wasn't immediately when the first time, like I wasn't won over. To the point where I felt the need to like watch it regularly when it first was on, mostly because I expected it to be, I mean, I don't mean Teen Titans like the cartoon show because I actually never watched that, so I can't compare them. But like, I've never seen that. Can you believe that? I've never seen one episode of that show. But
I made
anyway,
a mistake of trying to watch it after this, and that was a huge mistake.
What I figured this would be like we come up with an excuse to like get the kids off by themselves, and it's not. And we kind of lose the adult characters immediately, and it's not about them, but that's not what happens. Like this show is very much a DC Universe show, and it opens it up to that entire world. And it doesn't cheat like that. It's not like this is the B team and like it's the less interesting people, and you wish you were looking at the Justice League, but you're actually looking at them.
It doesn't do the thing that all comic books do, where it's just like, don't think about why they're not calling the Justice League.
Yeah, no, it's not like that, and it kind of makes the adults feel sort of larger than life a little bit. But I mean, they get vulnerable and they get really human too. But I don't know if you have this, but when I look at a thing like this, and I'm used to looking at like the younger people and like the kids of the world, and then we go to the adults, they feel a lot bigger.
Yeah,
And I don't mean just larger than life in personality. I'm just like, oh yeah, these people are like they're bigger. You know?
They're physically larger. And I should say, when I first tried to watch the show, I watched 3 episodes. I was like, this is kind of boring. It is a show that builds on itself.
Yeah, and I was worried halfway through the first season because, well, for a couple of reasons. You kept talking it up, and I was like, I mean, it's good, but I'm not, like, falling in love with it yet. And you're like, halfway through, you asked me who my favorite character was. I couldn't answer that yet. The really big, interesting character revelations come in the second half.
That's true.
And I fully get who all these people are, and they're like strengths and weaknesses, and like their strengths of character, and their dark sides, and all of that. In the second half, I mean, you really got to live with it, but it's not like it's like really dull and boring and uninteresting for those first 12 and like skip those and watch the rest of it. Like all of that is really important, but there's just a lot of world building it has to do before it can really get into a lot of that. And also, I think there's a lot of significant character work that happens in the first 12 that you don't even realize is going on.
And it's even better the second time through.
I bet.
I'm sure. The episode where we find out... Do we find out? No, we don't find out yet. We, the audience, don't know yet. But the episode about Miss Martian, where they say, like, what do you look like? And she just does, like, she looks like Martian Manhunter?
No, we at that point do know.
Okay, then it's earlier than that. There was a point where her and Superboy mind meld?
Yes.
And
he knows there, but we don't.
But if you go back and watch it, you can see it.
Can you?
Yeah, you can see him be like, that's not
Oh,
right.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Because he knows. And there's a lot of stuff like that.
And I'm jumping around, but...
Artemis makes you feel dumb. Like, did you know the revelation about Artemis?
Huh.
Okay, that will make you feel dumb. What? Like, it's like, oh, it's so obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt... Especially because you already knew who her sister was.
Yep.
No, that's hilarious. And like... And did you have the moment that I did where they do, like, she's not the mole, maybe she is the mole, maybe she's not, and then I have that moment where I'm like... Okay, so she was the whole time. Oh wait, no, she actually wasn't. This show does that to me constantly, and sometimes inside of just one episode.
Yep.
That episode
where
they make me think that Flash lets a little girl die, and then I kept sending you messages where I'm like, oh, he let this little girl die. I can't believe the envelopes the show is pushing. Oh wait, no, she's not dead. Oh, she didn't die.
She died anyways. Oh, no, wait, she's not dead.
No, she's not dead. But it didn't feel like it was cheating. It just felt like it kept me guessing. It's not plot twisty in that way.
Okay, so here's how obsessed with continuity that show is.
It's obsessed. Yeah.
So, remember I told you there's a character in the Young Justice comics called Arrowette, and they did not use Arrowette, they used Artemis.
Yeah.
They use Artemis because her parentage is what it is in the comics.
Oh,
and that's
awesome.
Also why they choose that character to be kind of the big bad.
Yeah. Okay, the Sportsmaster.
Yeah, yeah. So Sportsmasters are stats spoilers.
This will be.
Yeah.
Okay. The show is 7 years old.
Yeah. Okay. So they pick Sportsmaster as their like Deathstroke because he's Artemis's dad, and they choose Artemis instead of Arrowette because Sportsmaster is her dad. Like, that's how deep they like went into the DC universe to make this show.
I should have immediately said we're gonna full on spoiler this.
Yeah, because I was trying to dance around that.
And so like going farther, we will just straight up spoil stuff for the rest of this. But like, if you've not watched the show, I mean, like, do yourself a favor, because I mean it makes, and this is an easy pot shot to take, I guess. Some people are not gonna like me for saying this, but like it makes like Arrow and Flash and those shows like look really sad, because it's more sophisticated than it has any right to be. Like you wouldn't expect that. And you keep saying you're not sure if like even little kids would enjoy this show. I will say my kids, for whatever reason, really like watching this with me. I don't know why that is, but
and there's a couple of jokes that go really far. Or not even jokes. There's a couple of the thing for me where I was like, oh, this isn't for kids. It's not the moment that you messaged me and said it's not for kids.
But I'll mention that.
Yeah. No,
that was a Wheaton line.
It is the episode that opens where we find out the Miss Martian has been shapeshifting into other women when her and Superboy make out.
That was crazy,
right? Can you believe they did that?
That was really funny. I'm not sure how I felt about the teaser of that episode, because they do the makeout, and then Oliver's like, what? And then immediately after after the intro, you find out that it like what was really going on, that it was Miss Martian. I felt like that was a little bit teasy.
My favorite thing with Green Arrow, because he's if you pay attention, he's always wrong. Every time he's always wrong, and in that scene, his immediate reaction is to laugh. And his girlfriend is so angry because because Black Canary's the one that she shapeshifted into, but like, he's just like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, oh, those kids. My girlfriend is hot.
Well, and then once you know everything, and I mean, like, I guess I already knew this because of Supergirl and stuff, but like, when you find out when she says like that's just a game we play on Mars, is it a white Martian game? Like,
well, I think they both have shapeshifting abilities, so.
Sure, so like maybe they all have those costumes, but like that's a weird costume, you know.
Well, and she doesn't say it. It is Martian Manhunter that says like it's a game we play on Mars. So I would imagine
she
both
talks about it that way too, though.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
But I was. But anyway, so I was just gonna say that like I said, like 12 in, I wasn't really sure about it, and then like immediately, I started realizing that this was something really special, and that it's a really mature thing that like keeps rewarding you for paying attention.
Yeah.
And I think
keeps building on itself, and nothing is a coincidence.
Yeah, and I think even if you know some of the things that are straight comic things they just pulled from the page that they then treat as reveals, they still kind of work as reveals. Like not like you don't know them, but just they're really satisfying. Like all the stuff with Billy Batson.
Yes.
Is really brilliant. Now, I guess we the audience know real early, but no, they do treat that as a reveal in the first episode. It's a reveal at the end of the first
episode, and I've watched it with two different people who are both like, "Wait, he's a kid."
But I do appreciate the fact that they don't. I think that is common knowledge enough that's why they didn't feel the need to try to keep it from you while they keep it from the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other things that they keep from you that
and they get a lot of mileage out of people not knowing that Captain Marvel is a little kid. They get a lot of mileage, and it's hilarious.
I think I don't know what my favorite episode is right now, and this is a thing that I'm not going to feel real qualified to talk about until I see it another time, because it's so dense.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's really impressive about it is the variety of like kinds of episodes it has and different parts of the DC universe it goes to, because like it does the cosmic stuff and it does the occult stuff and does the mystical stuff, and it like the whole nine yards. Like it goes everywhere. It's the
most interesting Dr. Fate's ever been.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that whole thing is and the question of whether or not he should be on the Justice League is fascinating. Like the ethical conundrums in this are brilliant.
And the question about Captain Marvel, if Captain Marvel should be on the team,
right? Yeah, that's all handled in that same episode. And I like that they like
And no one wants Guy Gardner.
They make you, sometimes things like that, I don't know if they work really well.
For normal audiences?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
That was a question I had.
Yeah,
where I was like,
that's totally
they
fair.
didn't even name him. I don't think they named him.
I think they
Maybe did.
well, there is a third Lantern, Guy Gardner, and they're both just like, no.
I don't think they actually say his name in that scene. I might be wrong. That's wrong.
Hilarious.
But anyway, so like that's funny to me, but I don't know if
yeah, but for everyone else, it's over in 5 seconds.
No, I know that. But like, you know, it's kind of a I don't know. I just feel like that's like the big cherry at the end of on the top of the end of that scene. It's kind of weird that, you know, if you don't know that, you just move on. But anyway,
sure.
But I like that you have to wait an episode to find out what Justice League members they pick.
Yeah,
they don't tell you right away what it is.
One of them,
and they don't go down the roster either. They just show you the stage, and you're just like, oh, you did go with Plastic Man.
One
okay,
of them is that character from.
And is Icon Tony Todd? He sounded like Tony Todd, and I didn't look it up.
I'm not sure,
so I don't remember.
Yeah. So Icon is from the same line that Static Shock comes from.
Yeah,
I'm convinced he's only there so that his sidekick can be there, so that Aqualad is someone to kiss at the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing that would be really easy to jump the gun on and be like, we're jumping everywhere, but it would be really easy to jump the gun at that at the end and be like, oh, they paired everybody up too quickly. But some of the people that kiss at the end, it's just because it's New Year's. Like, they're not necessarily paired up as like permanent couples.
Yeah. I love Dick and Zatanna together.
Yeah,
they're so much fun.
Right now, I think my favorite episode might be the adults and kids switch places in different universes episode. I think that's brilliant.
I don't know if I have a favorite episode. I really like the therapy episode.
Yeah, I like that a lot too.
So one of the things you asked me earlier on, maybe halfway through the show, was you were like, I really hope we get more Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Did you get the Lex Luthor you wanted?
Oh yeah, it was wonderful. And when you asked me who my favorite character was, I took shots in the dark and kind of tried to tell you who I thought would become my favorite character, and I nailed it. I mean, Superboy absolutely is my favorite, and some of that is just because they love Death of Superman as much as I do. They love that era, you know, obviously.
They love 90s DC.
Yeah, they love 90s DC. They go to. I never thought I would see a cartoon show where in the first or second episode we see Double X of all people, Double X, you know,
and Guardian.
But if you do Cadmus, it's like you're more likely to have Guardian. But like Double X, that's a deep pull.
Well, and Guardian's also there because he's related to Speedy. Oh, we have to talk about Speedy, but he's related to Speedy. Because he's like his uncle or something. He's related to Speedy somehow.
Yeah. There's gonna be a. I mean, I gotta be careful because I don't know when I'll ever get to this, but there's gotta eventually be like a real thorough analysis of this on Rewind. Because there's so many characters to pair up and compare contrast, especially with identity issues. I think Red Tornado is set up to kind of almost be like the foil for everybody. When you look at the real classic like you know how human is this android thing, and then you look at all of these other characters that have various degrees of humanity and are asking themselves, am I a man, am I a monster, am I a programmed automaton for someone else? Nearly every character in the show has reason to ask some level of that question.
Yeah. Well, and they're all outsiders, and he's kind of the ultimate outsider.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Dick Grayson's not an outsider. Who I think ends up being my favorite, but, like, that's really tough for me. Like, I'm like, well, Robin's my favorite, but also Superboy, but also Kid Flash, and Artemis. And Aqualad, and maybe Miss Martian.
That was, you know, the Lex Luthor thing, was one of the things that I knew but played perfectly as a reveal when we discover that he's part of the DNA. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew that. I knew that's where they were going to go with that right away. Mm. But it plays brilliantly. Like, I'm still sucker punched, even though I know that's gotta come.
And they do like a real strong drug addiction metaphor with the patches.
That's right. Yep.
I love that what would get him addicted is just to have the powers of Superman. Let him become more powerful. Just to have the powers that he thinks he should have. which also ties into his whole thing with the crisis and the therapy, where it's or the training and the therapy, where he was just happy to be Superman.
Yeah, because he doesn't feel like he's worthy of that, and I like that. The whole season, whenever people mistake him for Superman and he says, "I'm not Superman," it's not because he doesn't want to be Superman. It's because he knows he's not.
Yeah.
It's because he's not worthy of that yet, and he hates it. And like he really kind of berates and belittles himself. But like again, not to this like obnoxious, like unsympathetic degree. It's just he can't decide if he is just any more than a thing that came out of a petri dish. And then to find out at the end that Red Arrow is exactly that the whole time, but even worse because he doesn't. It's hard for him to even forge his own identity because he thought he was someone else the whole time. Superboy at least got to be born.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like for whoever you think has it really bad, somebody has it worse.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about with Red Arrow is that they have that moment where they're like, yeah, we did the math. You're the one we've known. Even if you're not the real guy,
Yeah.
you are really our friend.
Yeah, and I really like that they don't. I mean, there's not a lot of forced drama in this show.
No,
you know, there's not angst.
It all
for
feels
the sake
really
of angst.
natural.
And like it's a lot of coming of age. It's a lot of like teenagers, like but later teenagers coming into adulthood.
Mm.
I really like that's the big difference between this and Teen Titans. Of course, is that like the Young Justice thing is we're almost adults. We're nearly there, but we're not quite there yet. It is the coming of age thing. There is a lot of learning and growing, and everything that show has to say about leadership is brilliant.
Yes, I love Aqualad being the leader, knowing that Robin should be but isn't ready yet.
But he's not there yet. Yeah, and yet he has a lot of growing up to do.
Yeah.
How about that episode pretty early on? Where, or not really, I forget, like midway through, I think, where he has to do the compartmentalization thing, and everybody throughout that episode, as they find out that that Aqualad kept something from them, they're all angry and hate him for it, and then the episode ends with them all realizing he had to do that. And then like they appreciate that he's as good of a leader.
That's when they first found out about the mole.
Because he's not sure if he can trust that one of them isn't a mole, so
Yeah.
he can't tell them that he knows that.
Yeah.
And so it affects them and it hurts them, but also what else is he going to do? And so that's kind of like the sacrifice he makes as a good leader is to like not treat them like his friends right then.
Yeah, yeah. And he's great.
Yeah,
it's really unfortunate.
I think he gets lost toward the end of the season
A little
though.
bit. A little bit.
And they keep finding reasons to write him out. And for a while I thought it was just like we're gonna. One thing I really like about the show, by the way, and like this is so smart. You don't even see a lot of like live action primetime dramas do this. Like we're doing this on Primetime Crisis. It's not a primetime show, but it should be. It has timestamps. You always know where you are in proximity to the last episode.
Yes.
I love that a lot.
Down to like the second.
To the second, yeah. And like talk about being obsessed with continuity. It always knows where it is and like how much time has passed between things. So sometimes you'll have a character that's not there because they just come up with realistic things like this person like is on a mission or this person's on vacation or something. But we do that with Aqualad a lot.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or maybe it's just like it happens once and then we just keep not using him as much after that. But I think the problem is you kind of have to write him out a little bit so that Dick Grayson can fall into the leadership role. So that's kind of difficult. I like the Haley Circus episode a lot.
Yes, that's a really good episode.
And I almost messaged you, but I made that mistake with Flash. So I waited until the episode ended, and then I didn't feel the need to do it anymore. Because with the Flash episode, I kept going, oh, this thing happened. Wait, no, it didn't. the thing I was going to say... Oh, and I partly love that episode because that's the episode where Superboy fights Parasite.
Yes.
And he's using the patches. And they keep track of how many patches he has. I mean, like, it is insane how well they know their continuity and how much they keep all that together.
Yeah.
And why
how much effort and care went into the show,
and why other shows drive me insane when they don't have any care at all. Where it's just all about gimmicks and it's all about plot twists and things. Like
you see why it's going to be really.
You know how many they have, and he uses like 3 or 4 in that episode. And then when he's down to just 1, I could have counted it with him. I know how many he has. It's amazing. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, you can see why it's. I would think it would be stressful to be making the live-action Teen Titans show, knowing that it's going to premiere on the same streaming services season 3.
Young Justice. Now, I know you and most people say season 2 isn't nearly as good.
Season 2 is not nearly as good.
So, I mean, we don't know if we can expect the kind of caliber of writing with season 1, but I'm assuming the problem with that season isn't that they've gotten careless and they can't keep track of their continuity anymore. I'm assuming that's not what it is. I'm assuming it's more just it's not as interesting as what they did in the first season.
There's too many characters.
Is that what it is?
It's less character focused because there's so many characters.
And I don't want to know any more than that.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say about the Haley's Circus episode? I was in the Haley Comet episode. It's not about the Haley's Comet. I was going to say, I was going to send you a message and be like, how in the world could he not recognize that Stick Raisin? And then he's wearing a domino mask. He worked with him when he was a kid. He saw his parents get murdered. You get to the end of the episode, he calls him Dick. I'm like, glad I didn't send that message. Kind of thought that might happen.
Well, and you had that with the first episode. You're like, I'm so glad someone mentioned the coincidence of all these ice villains attacking at the same time.
Yeah, I needed someone to bring it up, and then it not only comes back again in the prison episode with all the ice villains.
Which is a super fun episode.
I think it's really good. But it gets brought up again after that. Like I forget in the content, but like it keeps coming back. Mythologies I never thought I'd care about. Red Tornado.
Yeah.
The episode with the other tornadoes and the like android built by the original creator who is now dead that is running them all. That's probably like my second or third favorite episode of the season.
It's a really good episode.
It's brilliant. I really like the escalation, and it's hard for me not to compare it to like Sung and his androids in TNG. Like the escalation where you or the evolution where like you start with an android that like thinks it's human, and then like that ends up being problematic, and then you go to one that like just wants to be on the Justice League, and just like all the trial and error of that I thought was really interesting, and then like the personas that it creates for these people.
Well, and it does this thing where like it starts back in the Golden Age,
right?
And you see Dr. Ivo,
yeah,
and that doesn't exactly.
Oh, it is
track.
Ivo. That's right.
And then, or it's Tio. Is it Tio Morrow?
No, it's not Ivo. They use Ivo later. They're dealing. He's still in present day, isn't he? Or aren't they dealing with him with the?
Well, because it doesn't seem to track with because you can see him.
Yeah.
But then when you, there's a reveal that he's like an old man in like in a sick bed, and the doctor that you've been seeing has been a robot the whole time. That's a thing that should be obvious, but isn't. There's a lot of that in this show where I'm like, well, yes, of course, because he was doing this back in the Golden Age, and
yeah, okay.
One of my favorite thing in that episode that's just like a tiny joke is, it's Red something. And the second robot, he doesn't call Red something, and then he does Red Tornado and Red Volcano. He's like, well, I fixed her name, so it's what it should have been the whole time. It's Red, whatever it is.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Red Comet or something.
I want to go back to something to a thought I didn't finish like minutes ago.
Sure.
No. Look, I just remembered like I should probably mention this, which is so I was talking about how weird I felt in the middle of the way through the season. I'm glad that's not split into 2 seasons, but it's a long, dense 24 episodes.
Yes.
Like it's hard to appreciate shows that feel like they have to have a bunch of filler episodes when I've seen this show.
Right?
And it has, and they're all 22 minutes. And
CW looks really bad.
I feel like I watched, and other things too. I feel like I watched 3 seasons in a season, and it has a bunch of one and done episodes that you could watch by themselves that are doing a bunch of character legwork and seeding things and building stuff that you don't even realize it's building, and this is a master manipulation plot that works.
Yeah.
Straight down.
It also helps that there's a couple of masters. It's not one person is it's a bunch of people working together manipulating different aspects of things.
That's true, but like it's really cool that, like I said, you can have that kind of variety of all the different stories you're telling, and most everything connects together, but not in like a really obnoxious, forced, like in hindsight kind of way.
Mm.
And we're seeding things so that pretty early you already know that there's this group called the Light, and they're doing machinations behind the scenes, and that every time you see some other villain, or especially if it's a group of villains, they're probably connected to it in some way or another.
Yeah.
And like by the end of the season, I don't know, it's really tight, and by the end it. Like everything lines up really well, at least on the first viewing it seemed to. Where like I didn't expect to see Bane again.
Yeah.
But then of course, yeah, there he is. Although it's a real big deal when he venoms up and then he's taken out like 3 seconds. It's hilarious. He's like yoink, and then he's done. I forget who does that, but it's hilarious.
My one thing on my first watch through that I didn't love, and I don't know how else you would do this, other than it would be a reveal for me and like no one else.
Yeah.
Is when we find out who the Light are, I was like, oh, it's the villains we've seen through the whole season.
Yeah.
But how else would you do it so that people would care?
Maybe it happens too early,
Maybe.
but I'm not sure.
It's like
I
episode
will
18.
say it is. Is it that late?
I think so. It's that Injustice Gang episode.
No, it's earlier than that.
Okay.
The Injustice Gang thing happens like 2 or 3 after the middle. It's like 14,
Okay.
15.
Okay.
Like, yeah. It is a big deal when Lex and Roz are standing in a room together.
Yes. No, that was huge in that earlier episode.
That's huge. But like you find out not too far after that like they're involved with the Light. So
yeah. It was just like the show's so compact. Like I don't know how else you would be like, because like when we reveal like it's the kid with the cat. Like I remember being like, oh yeah, I guess he was in here earlier. But what else would you do? That's tightly plotted as it is. What was just be 6 random villains?
The only other thing I could see is like, and this could again feel really gimmicky, where it's just it's all these people that you've seen in separate, disparate episodes that you didn't think had anything to do with each other, and then a big bad you never thought you'd see in that show walks out.
Yeah,
we're just some big deal, villain shows up. But like, who would it be after you have people like Lex and Roz and
yeah. Well, and like I guess because like we know almost everyone's working for the Light, so like we don't know exactly who is part of it. So like like we know right away that the Demon Kid is working with the Light, but we don't know that he's actually part of the Light until that. So like it's so tightly knit. I don't know what else you could do. Like you would have to do it that way, because what else are you gonna do?
Like I said, just all the different pockets we end up going to. Like I really wasn't every time
it's like a tour of the DC universe.
Yeah, every time I thought I saw everything, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, they haven't done that yet. And
oh yeah, they gotta do Martians.
They gotta do Martians, and they've gotta get New Gods in there. And the New Gods episode is actually really good, which is not easy to pull off. And they nailed that. I thought they do the magic stuff more than I expected, but that's because they have Zatanna. And by the way, I like the second stringers a lot.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate if you say there's too many characters in the second season, because I thought they nailed that there, where you have the mainstays, but then I find myself caring about the second stringers also, and thought Red Arrow was one of those. And then of course he's going to end up, being a big major, plot point himself. But but like, I don't know, Zatanna is rarely, if ever, handled as like a superhero in his own right, and they made me care about him, which is really cool. Now, he becomes Dr. Fate because he is easily the most expendable person in that show.
Sure.
No one gives a crap what happens to Zatara. He's there because you have to have because all the proteges have to have an adult version. But I ended up really liking him.
But you care about it because Zatanna cares about it.
Yeah, sure.
Like you feel her pain, kind of.
Yeah, and like he gets some comedic moments before that, and like he's a real kind of drawn character, surprisingly. One question I have for you, this is I guess kind of a small thing toward the end, but when they have the Starro bits, which I thought was really cool.
Yes.
I'm with it far enough to buy it rewiring Red Tornado. I don't know about it going through that Fate helmet the way it does. Like, I questioned that, where like it's able to reprogram at the same time the Fate helmet and then the Fate guy and Zatara. Like, the fake guy is, like, in another dimension connected to the helm. I wasn't real sure about that.
That's fair. Well, they had to do something.
They had to do something, yeah. Well, and they just go, it's the most powerful thing ever. And it can rewire these, like, 4 totally different types of brains. And, okay.
I wonder if you had the thing that I had when I first watched it, where it's like 6 episodes before you get to Artemis, but she's in the intro.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, no, I was just sitting around like, when does the Arrow chick show up?
That early... I still don't think, and looking back, I feel like a moron for saying this, but that early, I don't think I got the sense that it was going to be so much of a tight-knit ensemble cast. I kind of expected more of, like, a Justice League Unlimited kind of thing.
Where it's kind of rotating.
And so I guess I wasn't thinking so much about who's in the intro. Oh, they fixed that problem from Justice League Unlimited with the intro. Because what always irritated me about that show, and I don't know if you remember this, is in the intro, Justice League Unlimited would show you too much of the episode you're about to watch in the intro, but this show gives you quick glimpses, and it's mostly of stuff you've already seen in the teaser.
Yeah.
So, and I still don't think we even needed to do that. I don't know why it can't just be the same intro every time. I don't know why we need to.
That might be a network thing.
Show you what's things that are part of that. I don't know why that would be. Why anyone would think that was important.
I don't know.
But I at least never felt like anything was spoiled for me through that whole thing.
One of the things I really like is everything that's important but then there's stuff where, like, if you don't know it, it doesn't matter, but it does add. There's multiple kind of layers for, like, comic book fans. One of the big ones was
well, I expect to notice new things from, like, every episode when I get back to it.
Yeah.
Like,
having just gone
if
back
I had the
this.
time, I would rewatch it before I go to 2. Just because I don't want a whole other... Because I know there's a time jump, and I'm sure that's going to feel like almost a different show.
It does a little bit.
Does it?
But in the Aqualad episode, the one where he goes
back to Atlantis and loses his...
Yes. Yeah, his girlfriend.
And see, that whole thing is really cool, because maybe it's a little bit easy in the moment when that comes back, because we haven't talked about it in forever, and it's like, we're wrapping up the season, and we have to make sure that we bring this back and talk about it. But, like, they always find really good, like, parallels and connections for that stuff.
And there's a character in the background in that episode that is a mainstay in Season 2.
That's nuts. Well, they set up Beast Boy.
Yes, they set up Beast Boy. He's also in Season 2. And they set up how he gets his powers, which is their own version of that.
Yeah, that was the Hell Omegan episode, which was amazing.
Right.
I didn't expect to fall in love with that the way I did. That was amazing.
My favorite moment.
I hated that catchphrase. I hated it. I don't know if you had that.
I did.
But I was like, please stop saying that. It's really irritating. Now I love it.
I had it, like, for the first, like, 6 episodes, I was done with it, and, like, eventually it just grew on me, and then when it had, like, emotional resonance, I was like, oh. But my favorite moment...
Sorry, go ahead.
My favorite moment in that episode is when you find out the boyfriend in the show's name is Connor, and everyone just looks at Superboy. I also love how he gets the name Connor Kent. Where Red was like, what about Kent? After Kent,
the Dr. Fate guy.
Yeah, Dr. Fate, and he's like, wouldn't that mean it was my last name? Like, but Red Tornado knows. But no, so in the Aquaman episode, or in the Aqualad episode, Aquaman's brother, Orin. I think it's Orin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Aquaman's brother is there, and on the light is Ocean Master, but the show never tells you that they're the same person. So, like, if you know that it's Orm. Sorry, Orin is Aquaman. Orm is his brother.
Okay. It's also the crest on the necklace for the never-ending story, but that's neither here nor there.
Once you know that, you know, like, oh, he's using Black Man, and he probably let Black Man in, because we never find out how Black Man got in.
Yeah.
You don't need to know. But if you do know, you can put those pieces together, and you know that he's working against Aquaman the whole time.
Well, and, like, especially later, as the show just keeps, like, rewarding you for keeping the pieces together, and paying attention and being patient, you just trust it.
Yeah. When you said something to me about where you're like, there's all this stuff, but I completely trust the show to pay all of this off.
Yeah, and it does.
The only episode, when I rewatched it, I think the only episode that does not like plot-wise build is the Halloween episode. That is the only villain that shows up and does not come back, and that's an adaptation of a story.
In that.
That's the Heart guy, Harm guy, the very Peter David villain.
So Peter David wrote 2 episodes that season, and that one was really weak.
Well, but I really like all the Halloween. Like, it's got my favorite Captain Marvel line.
Well, that's true, but I just mean villain-wise at the very least.
And that's the only one that doesn't come back or isn't seeded by anything else. It's just a complete standalone villain plot. It's the only one of the whole season.
I mean, there's people in the Injustice League we don't use again, I guess, but like they're not.
Yeah, but we kind of built to that, and they're part of the light plot. Like, this has no connection to anything.
Oh, the Riddler is really weird looking.
The Riddler is really weird looking. I also love that he gets away, because they seed that in the prison episode where, like, the only person that got away was the Riddler.
I forgot about that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, you just imagine, like, charts everywhere.
Yeah. That's the only way, right? That's the only way you can write this show.
Well,
could you imagine trying to be in the writer's room?
They could just be so into what they're doing that they just remember everything. The thing is, if you're really character driven, some of that stuff comes more naturally because you're thinking about everything from the perspective of the characters you're writing. It's easier when it's like a singular protagonist. But even with the team thing, like if you're thinking about everything from their perspective and you're like remembering things because of the way they're remembering it, more of that just comes naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like I can kind of tell they're writing that way too.
It's just but this show had to be so plotted out. Like, it's amazing that they were able to
that's true
write down how the character beats had to go for the story to happen the way it happened.
But then it does feel pretty organic.
It feels completely natural. It's really... Could you imagine being brought on to write an episode of this show and being like, okay, so you gotta set this, and this up, but don't forget that these things happen, and you have to get this character from here to here, and also, while you're doing that, if these characters can move a little bit this way, that'd be great. Yeah, okay, yeah, let me take a crack at that.
Yeah, it's like if it's Breaking Bad or something. Like it's that sophisticated. It's, at least as far as the plotting is concerned.
One of my favorite things, relationship character-wise, is the insanely slow burn and in no way obnoxious relationship between Artemis and Kid Flash.
Yeah. I need a second viewing to really appreciate that.
Okay.
I must have missed some things because that came out of nowhere for me.
Oh no, it's.
I'm sure it's there all along, but I was too focused on Superboy.
Sure.
Was my thing. This is a thing that I just like. I think you could watch this like 3 or 4 times from different characters' perspectives. And
The only thing with Superboy that I still don't understand is why he hates monkeys. I don't know maybe that about. He was a lab. He views himself as a lab monkey, but it's hilarious that he just hates monkeys for seemingly no reason.
Real quick, I want to talk about the Superman thing for a minute because you and I have talked about that some.
Yes.
About how you've always complained that Superman's just kind of a jerk to Superboy, and you've always said he just sucks, and
he's just the most absentee father, and like it plays like gags sometimes to me where like Batman's like, we have to talk. He's like, I gotta go do something over here.
I think they do a pretty good job by the end of the season of resolving that and making you appreciate why he's that way, but I feel like all we had to do was spend a little bit of time with him, and yes, it's not focused on the adults, but there are other adults like Satara, to be perfectly honest with you, that we spend a little bit more time, and even like, okay, I realize that Billy Batson is not exactly an adult, but he's on the Justice League, and he gets whole scenes all by his lonesome.
Yeah.
I don't know what, and like, we don't do it for very long, but there's that scene where we cut to like Bruce and Clark in a diner. Like,
that's great. That's a great scene.
Couldn't have gone on a little longer, or there'd been another one later where like they're talking, or maybe he's talking to Diana or something about the thing that is revealed at the end, which I don't think should be a reveal. I think it should be there the whole time, and you wouldn't say Superman sucks if it was there. It's simply that we don't get enough screen time with him, and we don't get in his head about it. I don't fully appreciate, and like I thought I had it. I thought I knew why he felt that way, or like why he didn't want to be really involved with Superboy and mentor him. But what it ends up being makes so much more sense than what I thought it was, which is he doesn't trust him because they have that whole thing about how Superman looks at things in a black and white way, and if Superboy came from an evil place, that means there must be something wrong with him. That makes perfect sense if you're Superman, that you would think that way. They're
Sure.
like, I can't trust him, he came from a mad science lab. Like, I'm going to feel a lot worse about myself if I give this guy the means to do terrible things to people. All we needed to do was talk about it way earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I think he comes off as a complete jerk for the whole season until they patch things up at the end.
Yeah, but I don't know how you don't give it a second watch and then appreciate it more.
It's because of how the scenes are kind of framed. Like, he just seems like such a jerk. Like, where he just keeps leaving. He's like, that's not my problem. Like, when him and Batman sit down and have that conversation, he's just like, he's not my kid. Why do I have to raise him? Like,
man, I don't think you're watching it right. I never got that from it, and I always thought there was more to it. And then you get to the end of the season, and there's more to it. And I just don't think we talked about it enough at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it does pan out, and next season they're going to be buddy. Like, they do work that all out.
Yeah. I assumed there was more to, like, why everyone says Superman sucks in that show. No, we just don't talk about it. That's it. And the problem is, he's Superman, you expect him to be really optimistic about everything, and you get that from Captain Marvel in spades, but you don't get that from him. And so you just yearn to get to see Superman doing Superman stuff.
Yeah.
And you see Batman do plenty of Batman stuff, so why can't we have that? I had a thought with Captain Marvel that I hadn't had before, and I don't know if this is going to make sense to anybody else but me, but watching this show, I felt like the biggest loss we have in no longer being able to call Captain Marvel is losing the Captain title. Everybody throughout is always calling him Captain, but there's this fascinating juxtaposition where he's a little kid, and he's Captain Marvel. Like, once he's Shazam, like, you lose the title. Like, it matters that he's Captain Marvel. Like, I never thought of that before.
That's fair.
But boy, it's so dense. It's brilliant.
Yep. I've always said so.
Yeah.
Well, and
people talk it up all the time, and I have a tendency to not prioritize cartoon shows for whatever reason.
And I was late to this too. I came like 2-3 years after it was over, I think. No, I start watching the second half of season 2 is not out on DVD yet, so whenever that was.
So we mostly, for Primetime Crisis, wanted to talk about this week. We're gonna really briefly blow through some other stuff. I was gonna talk about Discovery this week, and then I realized that actually tonight, as we're recording this, the last episode of the season dropped, and I'm gonna talk about all of that together. It remains impossible to take seriously for me, and I had this like really brief period where I was like, no, maybe it's getting a little bit better, and then immediately we just went into plot twist territory. We just had plot twist and plot twist and plot twist, and no, it's absolutely preposterous, but it's almost getting entertaining as like it's
almost on like a Gotham level.
It's almost except it doesn't know what it's doing, but
we're still not sure whether Gotham knows or not.
That's true. It's almost a so bad it's good kind of thing. Like, I have to throw away that, like, I wish I got a real Star Trek show after all those years not getting Star Trek. Like, but anyway,
because you got this amazing comedy.
I want to. Yeah, and like, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings that really appreciate it and takes it seriously. But I have a hard time understanding appreciate it. It's so sappy. And the whole world revolves around Michael Burnham, and that has not changed. And,
was I wrong for leaving when I left?
No, you absolutely were not. And I mean, like, it's ludicrous. Anyway, but I want to wait to break anything down until I have the end of that season. And a friend of mine was sending me messages earlier, and
you can say Alexi. He was on the show.
That's true. It was Alexi. I mean, people knew who Alexi is. Well, Alexi reviewed the first few episodes with us, couple episodes with us, and he was just losing his mind at how much he hated the end of this. Although, okay,
I got to see some of the text messages.
I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I want to mention one detail because it cracked me up. Because this is kind of like the encapsulation of some ways in everything that's wrong with the show, just because like it wants to be like real Star Trek in set in prime continuity, but it also
can't care enough to actually get that right.
Yeah, and just like doesn't like is using all this future tech because it really wants to be in the future, but it's in the past. We had a site-to-site transport 30 seconds in an episode 2 feet in front of a transporter pad, and I just thought that was hilarious. Anyway, Eric, why don't you talk about something?
Okay.
You could talk about.
I have two things.
You have pick one. What would you like to talk about?
I'll talk about Atlanta.
Okay, sure.
Which I wanted to put on my best of TV for 2017.
Oh, we haven't done that yet.
Oh.
We forgot all about that.
The only thing I've got is the Orville.
We should do that. So you got the Orville.
I realized I don't think I watched any other because I thought Atlanta would be.
But it started the season.
No. It's actually 2 years. It came out 2016.
Oh.
Not sure when it hit Hulu. It
well,
must
if
have
you
been
watched episodes
recently.
from 2017, it would count. It
No, I looked.
It doesn't have to be brand
they're
new.
all 2016.
I will.
Season 2 started.
There's
soon,
one you're
so I thought it was last year.
Okay, so there's one you're forgetting that would go on your list.
Okay.
Because I know you went back and watched it again.
Okay.
You forgot about the Tick.
I did forget about
the Tick. Would go on.
I totally forgot about because I looked up TV shows and I looked up TV shows 2017. I was like, I haven't watched any of it. I haven't watched it. Yes. Oh no, the Tick. It's not done yet. As of right now.
So far, I'm putting it above the Orville.
Yeah. No. I would too. It's really good. It's really good.
And the only other thing I had was Bates Motel, even though I don't think they stick the landing at the ending. I still was so captivated I couldn't stop watching it. So that's on my list.
I do have a worst.
Those are my top 3.
Do we have the same worst?
I have 5.
Okay.
For bad. That's the thing is most of the TV I watched last year I didn't like.
For number 1, we must have the same. Yes.
Inhumans.
Oh, I went Iron Fist because I watched the whole show. I had to sit through the whole thing.
Yeah, but man, like. No, I'm with you. No,
it's Iron Fist, right?
Iron Fist. It's Iron Fist.
We spent more time on Iron Fist.
We did.
watched the whole thing. I would go Iron Fist, Inhumans, Defenders.
Runaways, dude.
Runaways.
Come on, Runaways is way worse than Defenders.
No, Runaways.
I don't care that we only watched one episode of that. It's way worse than Defenders.
You're right.
Defenders didn't even make my list, man.
Well, I'm just thinking of the things that I've watched.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
But I wasn't even thinking.
But
see, I didn't. Because when I had my list, I didn't put Inhumans or Runaways because I didn't feel like I watched enough of them to really.
Yeah. Discovery is my 4th. I just can't help myself. And Legends is my 5th. So anyway, that show is the reason I stopped watching the CW shows in general. So I had to throw it on there.
Sure.
Okay, so anyway, so you were talking about a show I watched one episode of, which is not even indicative of what that show really is.
No.
Oh, I did. It's really super political. I'm not going to talk about the show, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Atlanta is Donald Glover's show. It's his baby. It is, he writes it. He directs some of it. Or he writes some of it. He directs some of it. He produces the whole thing. He show runs the whole thing. And also most of the music in the show that's like in-universe music, because they use songs throughout, is also him.
Is that right?
No.
I assumed it was just popular music.
Some of it is.
Okay.
So like, anything used for the sound...
A lot of rap and R&B, I don't know what the popular stuff sounds like right now.
So, a lot of the soundtrack to the show is all real music, but all the in-universe music is made by him.
I see.
Because Donald Glover's a monster who's good at everything.
Yeah.
And the only way I can cope with his existence is that he has to suck at everything else. He has to be a terrible cook. Like, he has to be bad at everything else because...
And I want to say the one thing he's not good at is stand-up comedy, but that's not true either.
No, he's a fine stand-up comedian.
He's a pretty good stand-up comedian.
Atlanta is what I would think you would find if you crawled up into Donald Glover's brain.
Yeah.
It is... The sense I get from the man is what I get from the show, which is... It's this real somber, dry comedy that's also crazy. And sometimes goes really big. This show manages to go huge subtly. There was an invisible car gag that I told you about. There's an invisible car gag that happens in the background of a scene and is not addressed by anyone. It's super wacky.
Might not even be happening.
It's super wacky in a really small, reserved comedy show. It almost feels like a Woody Allen film in places.
That's interesting.
It reminds me a little bit of Annie Hall in places, being the only Woody Allen film I've ever seen.
Which is the one I saw, like, it's really sharp.
It's really smart. It's really witty. The one thing...
And it's not scared of anything.
No, it's scared of nothing.
Like, it doesn't care what your politics are. It doesn't, it will say whatever is on its mind.
There's a point where... So, at the beginning of the show, if anyone doesn't know the premise, Donald Glover plays a character whose cousin...
I don't even really know the premise. Because the episode I saw was not about the premise.
Donald Glover is a guy that's kind of in a going-nowhere job. He's in a very strange relationship that I cannot wrap my head around, where... So, him and a girl have a child. And as long as he pays rent, he can live there. And they sleep together, and they treat it like it's a real relationship. They love each other, but it's a completely open relationship, and it seems like either of them can leave at any point. It's very strange. I cannot wrap my head around, like, that might tell you something about me, but I can't, like, I'm like, how does this relationship function?
And I have known a few people who have tried that, and it never seems to end well.
Based on what I've seen...
I don't know that most human beings are built for that.
Based on what I've seen in the show, I think it'll either end terribly or it will end well in the sense that I think they're going to stop doing that, and they're just going to be a couple. I think that's where it's moving. Or it will fall apart. I'm not sure. Also, that girl who he's dating is Domino in Deadpool 2.
Oh, cool.
So I've now gotten some exposure to her, and she's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great.
But,
yeah, generally speaking, that doesn't seem to be the healthiest way to live. I don't know.
No, it seems wrong to me. I don't know. So he finds out that his cousin is kind of blowing up as a rapper, and
that guy's hilarious.
He wants to be he wants to be his agent, and so it's kind of about him doing the rap agent thing, but it's also there is a scene early on in the show. People think he's involved in a shooting in Paperboy, who's his cousin. People think he was involved in a shooting and shot someone, and he didn't. But everyone thinks he did. Like, it's part of that, like, rep thing, where, like, he kind of keeps telling people he didn't shoot anyone, but people keep being like, like, I know you shot, you know, whatever. There's an amazing episode, well, I'm getting off track. So there's a point where he walks by some kids playing what they say they're playing Paperboy, and they're pretending to shoot each other. And the mom comes out and yells at them, and then he walks up and he's like, well, you shouldn't shoot people. Like, that's not good. Like, that's not what I'm about. And the mom's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm the kid I'm the person your kid is pretending to be. Like, he tries to, like, lecture them, it just doesn't go well. Like, he tries to be like, no, that's not what I actually want you to do. There's an episode that's entirely about the just awfulness of social media. There's a guy who's like a real, like, clickbaity, like, YouTube star who starts talking trash about Paperboy, and he, like, hunts him down, and he's like, why are you doing this? He's like, well, it gets me money, and, like, isn't that what you're doing? Like, aren't we doing the same thing to get money? And, like, it's just a way to get money.
We just say whatever we know is popular.
Yeah, or not popular because we know that's also going to get views.
Yeah.
It's just being contrarian. You know, it's
intentionally controversial, and you don't actually believe half of what you're saying.
Yeah. It's so good. It's such a good show. I highly recommend it to anyone. Also, in this universe, I'm pretty sure in this universe Justin Bieber is black, and all of his music is Donald Glover, and it's amazing. But yeah, no, I highly recommend Atlanta. It's
the one I saw cracked me up. I thought it was really funny. It gets really dark and stuff.
Yeah.
It's super political and super satirical, but
it's really good.
So it's been weeks. I promised we would talk about this. There's a couple people that really hoping that we would chat about this. Hopefully we can jog each other's memories a little bit on this. I wish I had taken the time to watch it again.
I'd completely forgotten about it.
But we watched, and I want to watch more of that season. I got a lot of requests to watch the Black Mirror episode that is... People keep saying it's based on Star Trek. It's not based on Star Trek, but it's called...
I also don't think it's their riff on Star Trek. Exactly. In the way that people sold it to me as. Like, I thought I was going to get... Like what Discovery would be if it knew what it was. Like, I thought it was going to get like a really
I thought it was going to be like
scary
Star Trek.
Yeah.
And, it's more about toxic fandom.
Yeah.
It's about a guy who is basically a Star Trek fan who's obsessed with the show. I guess the show is called USS Callister, which I didn't. Or no, what's it called? I forget what the show's called.
It's called like Space Quest or something.
That's
like that.
what it is. Yeah, it's space something. Yeah, but anyway, again, it's been too long since we watched this. It's about a guy who works in an office who's kind of a pushover, who is this genius game developer, and in his off hours, he takes the DNA of people that make him angry in his office, and he recreates. This is really weird. He basically he makes clones of them that are digital clones, in a video game that he then goes into and recreates his favorite TV show, where he's basically Captain Kirk and the whole world revolves around.
And they
him.
have all of their memories up until the moment where they're created.
Yeah, and so it's basically, do these people have souls kind of thing? Except it doesn't really ask that question. It basically just says they do.
Yes.
And he tortures them for fun, and he
tortures them if they disobey.
I disagree.
Okay.
The fact that he created them there and makes them do all that is torture all the way through.
That's true. That's true. Because he forces them into
And remember, he changes their anatomy.
Yeah.
And all of that. He basically castrates them.
Which is kind of weird because, I get the idea that a '60s show does not have sex.
Where you don't actually show it. Yeah.
But if it is like Star Trek, it's happening off screen a lot. It'd be like recreating James Bond and being like, well, they never actually fornicate, therefore.
But you have to put yourself in his shoes. It's not just trying to create it perfectly where if someone took their pants off you wouldn't actually see anything. It's from his disturbing perspective where he wants to think of everything as completely wholesome and perfect and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's why he does that to them. I thought that was a really interesting choice. I don't know exactly what my read is on it, but
yeah.
But anyway, it's it's really horrifying. The thing, so the casting is brilliant. That guy is one of the most terrifying characters in Breaking Bad.
And the second he showed up, you were like, "There's something wrong with him."
Oh, this is going to be bad. He is clearly having an insane amount of fun doing his fake Captain Kirk thing. That voice he effects is hysterical when he's cool, it's really funny, but it also gets really creepy. Because he's just a child playing with his toys, and he's just forcing these people that he's created to be part of all of that. You had huge issues with how it's resolved.
Yeah, because it makes no sense.
Or it kind of falls apart. The big thing I didn't get was why he didn't have more control over his program.
So there's two major things. That's one of them. Is that we're told that he's like God, and then they drop him on a planet, and then they fly away, and he can't leave and get to them.
I didn't understand that.
And there's a ship there, and he has to follow them in the ship.
And it was really convenient that ship is there.
Yeah, why? If that's all they had to do, why didn't they just drop him on a planet and then never pick him up again?
And I didn't understand the self-sacrifice thing, where they all had to commit suicide.
Okay, well that made sense to me.
I thought we talked about it and we weren't sure about it.
No, it's not the self-sacrifice thing. It is that the game is updating, and for some reason, somehow, in the digital world, there is a literal personification as a black hole, and that makes no sense. When you're playing World of Warcraft, when there's an update, you can't go somewhere.
Manifest.
Yeah, you can't.
The update doesn't manifest as a physical thing.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
We got real fast and loose with the science in a way that I thought was really below them.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have a really, really big conceit that he has this technology that scans people into his computer.
Yeah.
It was okay. I think it's the worst episode of Black Mirror I've seen, having seen 5.
And I've only seen a couple now.
It's not bad, but it is.
I mean, as always, the production values are amazing, and I thought the design for their fake Star Trek thing was really good.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of breathtaking.
I liked it, but it felt significantly lower. The bar was much lower than the previous episodes I've seen.
I just thought it kind of fell under the weight of itself. I know a lot of people really loved it, and I like it for atmosphere and basic premise. And some of the sci-fi ideas and stuff, but I kind of thought
and there's some amazing performances when that guy tells the story about what happened to his kid.
Oh yeah,
that scene is haunting. And I've seen that guy. He's in Always Sunny. I never thought I would care about that guy. He is one of the weirdest guys ever in Always Sunny.
I had a basic premise question, and I'm gonna watch this again. I might feel differently about it. just kind of a psychological thing where I wondered why it was so important to him that they were real people.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't he have kind of gotten his jollies just as much if he simply created them like Barkley on the holodeck creating people? Like, did they have to actually have souls? Did they have to be a digital clone? I wasn't sure that wasn't going farther than it needed to. Like it's scarier that way, but I guess the point I make, like, it needs to go that far to be a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, it feels like it has to jump a lot of hurdles to make its premise work.
Just to make it scary enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think it was that good compared to
I wish I could remember
Black
what
Mirror.
exactly it was. There was something about just they're feeling like they had to kill themselves in order to make in order to like take him out, that I didn't really understand like why they had to do that. But I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah.
You agree with me at the time. It's been a while since.
And they also have access to the internet and like the outside world and phones and stuff, and that makes no sense. Like everything with the technology makes no sense.
And I really don't think it's a like people writing about video games who don't get video games thing. Like
no, it's just to make their like when she's like I'm a master hacker, I can hack anything. I'm like, why does that keyboard connect to anything?
Yeah.
Why would that keyboard be connected to the outside of the program you're in? Like that doesn't make any sense. It's a lot of just like, I guess I'll give it to you. I guess I'll give it to you. It doesn't make any sense. The performance is great. I like the idea.
Yeah, so it's just the logically made it difficult to appreciate on the level that I wanted to.
Also that he dies at the end, like he has the brain damage thing.
Yeah.
So the update happens, and he's in the game, and for no reason it won't let him log out, and then somehow that destroys his brain, and he's brain dead, because it felt like we had to have like we stuck it to him kind of an ending.
Right.
Why can't he just have lost what he made? Like, he can't make them again. Maybe the update somehow crashes his file so he can't use it. Like, that felt like it was going way too far. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to rewrite the thing. I don't know how exactly you would do this, but it would almost be more of like a it would almost be more of a poetic justice thing if like someone else made some other kind of game and like cloned him or something, like or something. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, we were a little bit lukewarm on that.
Yeah, like it was like, I don't know.
One thing like it made waves, and like I don't mean to be like, I don't think we're reacting this way because we're being contrary because everybody loved it, like, or because a lot of people loved it. It's just like we didn't think it quite worked at the end, but I'm not getting why people want to see it spun off. I don't see how there's a spin-off. I don't know what would that be. Just more of that game, like just a world of that, like just going to that universe.
That's a joke that would get real old. It's just people yelling profanities at these tiny people.
Oh yeah, it was really funny that the guy from Breaking Bad, his voice is voicing the gamer at the end. That was really funny.
I wonder how many people showed up for this because it was the Star Trek thing and haven't seen other episodes of Black Mirror.
Yeah,
because that's part of my big hang up with this was I was like, but I know the quality of Black Mirror and this doesn't exactly meet that. So I wonder maybe if people haven't seen Black Mirror or I don't know.
There were a lot of Star Trek tropes that I really appreciated, and in the way it perverts them, and like you made the case that it could be like any science fiction show and it didn't need to be Star Trek. I disagreed with that at the time. I need to look at it again to really back that up and talk to you about it. But like I don't know. It really felt like that guy was very much informed specifically by Star Trek.
I have never seen a spider-like creature look that relaxed before.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. Like like he can turn them into. But again, if he can turn them into creatures, why can't he leave the planet? Like
I don't know.
What was I missing? I don't know. Let's talk real briefly about the documentary series about action figures and toys,
which I only watched the first episode of,
and I've seen all of so far,
and watch the rest of them.
So. It's and it's kind of interesting how it has like a little bit of a thread through the episodes, in that if you've watch the previous ones, you start to see like kind of the world of like toy making, unfold, and you start to see patterns and in successes and failures, and it's really interesting. But it starts with Star Wars, and then they do a Barbie episode, and they talk about the history of that.
Which you skipped initially.
And then I went back and watched it.
Was it good?
It was really good. Yeah. And then there's a G.I. Joe episode, and then what is the other one?
He-Man.
He-Man is the other one.
Because that's the second one you watched.
Yeah, it was, and I just couldn't remember right away. I really appreciate the information. I really appreciate a lot of the interviews, and I'm glad that this is being made while some of these folks are still around who are starting to get up in years. And I really love all of the ins and outs of that business world, and how much of just nailing like what is really going to appeal to kids in a particular time period is so much luck, and just like grabbing something at random out of the air and just getting lucky, but and I mean there's a lot of skill involved also, but there is a massive degree of luck in just like figuring out what is gonna be.
No one knew Ninja Turtles was gonna be Ninja Turtles.
No, there was no way to know that. I have some issues with the production. I think it's really overproduced.
I think it's overwritten as well.
And I don't need most of that voiceover.
And it's so like the voiceover feels like a parody to me at points where like how they would use, only having seen the Star Wars one, like the way they'd use like references and things, like it almost seems like a mockumentary where it's like, but they had to remember, don't get cocky, kid, and like a lot of that stuff where I'm like, I don't need that. Just give me a documentary about toys.
It feels like they're aping like the VH1 like I love the '90s thing too much.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
And it feels weirder because it's on Netflix. You're so used to that kind of thing on broadcast television.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly.
You kind of expect something like a little bit more streamlined and a little bit less like, because that kind of thing is there on broadcast television to keep you from changing the channel. It's like trying to constantly get your attention.
Yeah.
This doesn't need to do that. It's for an ADD audience, and that's irritating because it's kind of insulting, right? Where it's like, well, the only people that are going to watch this have no attention span. I felt that way with like some video game documentaries. This I've had that with, where like less is more, and you don't want to like push your fandom too hard, where it's like you're trying to like justify your love for this at the same time as you're like
I don't care about the fandom of the guy making it. I care about the interviews with the people.
Yeah,
that's why we're here.
And it has the most irritating intro and theme song, and I skip it every time. I've listened to that exactly once and never again. I hate it so much.
It's really bad.
It's really bad. I'm excited about future episodes, but I'm a little bit surprised that they're not doing a Ninja Turtles one. I know there's a Ninja Turtles documentary, but there's still a lot more you could talk about with the toys. And like that's one of the hugest ones. It's weird they're doing Star Trek and not that. I would actually do that instead of Star Trek, to be honest with you. As much as I'm interested to see that show.
And the entire back half sounded good. Like we talked about what
they're doing Lego, and they're doing Star Trek, and they're doing Hello Kitty.
That one was weird.
And that was kind of weird. And then they're doing Transformers.
Yeah.
Which you have to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But like I said, I learned a lot. I'm glad I watched it. It had some of the weird editing stuff that we complained about with the Image documentary. A little bit here and there. It had some of that.
Not nearly as bad, though.
No, certainly. We're occasionally it will like refer to a person who's. It did this more than the other ones I watched, where like an interviewee will be talking about someone else that's interviewed, and then they'll just like show that person like just looking off in his face. Like it does that in some places, and that's kind of weird. But I do appreciate how thorough it is, and that like it goes all the way up. So like Star Wars doesn't just do the early Star Wars stuff; it goes all the way up. But He-Man does too.
Yeah, well, because we were wondering as we were watching, is like, are we gonna get into like the glut of the late '90s Phantom Menace? And we did, and then we went into 2 and 3. Did we do Force Awakens? I think we did.
We touched on it.
Yeah.
I really like how like a lot of what that show is about is we landed on something that ended up being a phenomenon. How do we keep it popular?
Yeah.
And so you have to go up through the decades. And even Barbie does that in fascinating ways. There's a whole thing about and like the original creators of Barbie and all the turmoil and drama there is really interesting. There's stuff I never knew about. You should watch that one. I mean, that's probably one of, if not the best of them, actually.
Sure.
It was really interesting.
I'd imagine the history of Barbie would be fascinating.
There was this whole thing. Yeah. And like a lot of it is the way it's sold is totally different in every decade because of the way society is looking at women in every decade.
Interesting.
And it's really interesting. There's like some really
burning Barbie.
There's some really messed up stuff. That's funny. There's some really messed up stuff when like the wrong people take over. Like there's this one doll. I did not know about this. I think it was in the 80s. Maybe it was early. I think it's 80s. There's this really messed up doll that basically it's like if there's no female involvement and it's just men making it, they have no idea how to sell things to girls. And there's this doll where she's prepubescent and you press a button and she develops.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's nuts.
That's insane.
But they go into this whole thing up into the 2000s with how like Bratz almost destroyed Barbie. I didn't even know that was ever that popular. Like
I didn't know it was that popular either.
Huge. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it was really interesting. Learned a lot. The last thing. Did you have anything else to talk about?
I had it.
Go ahead.
So I was sick the other day, and for kind of no reason, I decided to watch through the TV miniseries of It. So one thing that's interesting is
Is it better than The Shining? Because we watched that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be right.
I remember the Salem's Lot one being good, but I haven't seen it since I was a teenager. I might rewatch that.
I actually don't know that material at all.
After I finish reading the book, I'm currently reading the book.
Okay.
Rereading the book. I read the book when I was a teenager too.
Oh, did you? Cool.
Yeah. So interestingly, so I watched it about 5 years ago and remembered it being really boring.
That's my recollection of it, but it's been many more years for me.
But I never watched it as a kid. That was the first time I'd ever seen it. For a while, it was a thing where I was like, I've never seen it. And then when I watched it, I was like, oh, everyone's just really nostalgic for this. Like, Tim Curry's amazing, obviously, but, like, this isn't actually good. It scared people as kids, and they can't look at it critically.
Yeah.
Watching it this time...
you don't feel that way about it?
Not for the first half.
Okay.
The kid stuff is good. I will say, looking at this, while Tim Curry is much better than, what's his name in the new movie?
I don't know who that is.
Skarsgård. It's one of the Skarsgårds.
Okay.
Tim Curry is much better than him. The new movie is absolutely better than... Like, you don't ever need to go back to... Unless you're looking for the Tim Curry stuff.
Yeah.
You don't ever need to go back to this.
And I'm sure there's clips of that on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, man. That scene that I showed you, there was just a clip of that on YouTube. With the... Aha! 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 Oh, it's so funny. A lot of stuff that I really liked in the movie, I also really liked in the first half of the miniseries, because it does focus mostly on the kids. It kind of has a... we cut to one of the adults, and they get a phone call. It's like, he's back. And then they have a flashback. And we cut to another one of the adults, and he picks up and we have a flashback. And so that's kind of how we tell our story, is we just keep cutting to the adults. My biggest issue is I have trouble telling them apart. And one of them, as an adult, kills themselves, and I'm still not sure... Well, that's not true. Okay. When I watched it, I was like, I don't know which one it is. I'm looking at the kids, I'm looking at the adults, and I'm like, who's missing? I can't... Someone kills themselves. I do now know, because I have started listening to the book while I'm at work, and that's actually really early in the book, and I know who died. I know who it is now.
Well, that's good, but you had to go back to the source material.
I had to go back to the source material. I could not figure out which one had died, and now I know. When you get to the second half, with the adults, I don't know how close that is to the book, because I've just started the book, but two things. One of them is they're going to have to completely rework that. If this is what it is in the book, because the book is simultaneous. You're telling both the adult and kid story back and forth.
Yeah.
If this is what that adult side is in the book, you have to completely rewrite it to make it work on its own. There's
Because you said it's supposed to be all about memory and how your recollection is different.
Well, that's a big thing where, so they don't really remember, and I think that's much easier to do when you're interweaving storylines and you are learning things as they're remembering it, then it's going to be weird if we go to It Part 2 and all of the characters are like, I don't remember what happened in the last movie, because you, the audience, do.
What would be really funny is if all the advertising told you to not revisit it before you went and saw the movie.
That would be really cool. If it's like how well do you remember it?
Yeah.
That could be cool. They might actually be able to do something with that market.
But that won't work, because it'll just make everyone too curious to go back and watch it.
That's sure. Yeah. So the reason this is the reason I decided to go to the book. And it's because I was so fascinated with the idea of memory and how faulty memory is.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I bet you this is amazing in the book. Because with the stories,
we discover how faulty our memory is every time we make an omnibus.
Yeah. So that was fascinating just as a concept. It doesn't really work, and I want to say 70% of the second episode, which by the way, it's not a movie. I think most people think it's a movie. It's not. It's a 2-episode miniseries.
Yeah.
70% of that second episode is them hanging out and catching up with each other, and then they go fight the big spider monster.
How popular that is, because before the new movie, I think if you took a poll, you'd find the majority of people thought it was theatrical.
I agree completely. I think everyone thinks it's a movie, and it was sold on VHS. And I think people thought it was a movie.
Yeah.
So I had an interesting experience going back to this, and I was like, oh, this first half is better than I thought it was. That second half is terrible. You don't just watch the first episode. Don't watch the second episode. But it has more going on, and it's not as bad as I remembered. It's not as boring as I remembered it. Maybe I was just in the wrong state of mind when I watched it the first time. But Tim Curry's wonderful, and then O'Toole's there.
Yeah.
and Seth Green's really fun.
Annette O'Toole's one of those actors that got a lot better as she got older.
What's really unfortunate is Seth Green plays the funny kid, and then the guy, so you remember that there was the kid that wouldn't stop making jokes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Seth Green is him.
Who's hilarious in the new movie. I mean,
yes,
that kid's great.
Seth Green is him, and he's kind of funny. What's unfortunate is that Seth Green at 12 is so much funnier than the guy that plays him as an adult, because he's obnoxious and won't stop and is not funny at any point. And John Ritter's in it. John Ritter is also there.
I like John Ritter.
So do I. Except for in that weird Buffy. Well, I actually do like him in that weird Buffy episode.
I like that, yeah. He's the robot.
So yeah, I decided to go back to it for no reason while I was sick, and at the very least it inspired me to go try the book on audio. I'm reading Salem's Lot while I'm listening to it. Those aren't going to mix up in my head at all.
So I'm going to talk about one more thing, real briefly. Eric, it's already 4 episodes in, so I'm not going to say too much because anybody that is watching the show will already know a lot more than I do. I watched the pilot this morning on a whim for Black Lightning.
How was it?
It didn't suck. I didn't.
Really?
Yeah. I actually like a lot of things about it, and it is a real different thing from what it looked like it was from the advertising, because we watched that 10-minute mega trailer and we thought it looked terrible.
It looked like Seventh Heaven with superpowers.
It looked really bad. Yeah, and I remember the acting seeming really bad, and I remember
it looked really
the
bad.
Suit looking terrible. They've changed some things about the suit.
Interesting.
It's better. It's still a little silly, but I think it works. And it doesn't have that mid-90s vibe as much as we did.
It looked like Seventh Heaven with superheroes. Like everything that comes with the acting, the time period, it looks super sappy.
Yeah, if you watched it, you might still say it's sort of like Seventh Heaven with superpowers, but I don't think it's as sappy. It's hard not to simply compare it to the other superhero shows on that channel, and I think it's a couple rungs above them.
At least the first episode.
The first episode, I think, is at least at Supergirl level. Maybe even a little bit higher than that as far as it's not, like I said, it doesn't seem like a real sappy yet. Everyone's not just talking in platitudes and generalities. The story makes sense. I know what's going on. It's weird. It feels like, how do I put this without getting in trouble? It feels like a better version of some of the attempts we made in the 90s of black culture superheroes. You know, like it has a lot of like the tropes and the trappings of that.
And they're worse than Blank Man.
Well, and I was going to mention, like, it reminds me of Blank Man, but it's not a comedy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, you know, it's that urban upheaval thing. It's the like, you know, people growing up in bad neighborhoods and trying to make that world better. The guy who used to be a superhero who's trying to make a difference without having to put on a costume, and then is kind of forced to back into that. That all works pretty well. I talked to Alexi's really the reason that I went ahead and watched it, because he said it wasn't bad, and I was like, I'm very surprised to hear you say that. And so I thought I would try it, but I agree with him when he says it immediately gets away from some of the obvious CW tropes just by casting a middle-aged guy.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
It's sort of like if Joe West had his own TV show. Like, if you took Joe West from Flash and gave him his own show,
it wouldn't be like
immediately
Flash.
Would rather watch that show.
Sure.
You know?
That makes a lot of sense.
This guy is like really principled, which is funny because he's a school principal. That's what he does. And they don't make that joke. That's me. That's not in the show. I would immediately turn that off.
I can make that joke, but you cannot.
CW show, you can't. I've had enough of you. But anyway, you've had the 15 strikes. You're done. Anyway, but it's I don't know what was I gonna say. So the idea is it's a city with like a really terrible crime rate, and this guy. One thing I really like about
it's nice it's a city because that trailer looked like it was a small town.
Yeah, he has,
which also seemed hilarious.
He has superpowers, and we have no idea where they came from. He just has lightning powers.
I appreciate that.
We don't even talk about it. I'm sure we'll find out what it is. There's also a so the idea is he used to put on his costume and go out with his lightning powers and fight crime, but he feels weird about it because he kind of wants to be pacifistic, but sometimes you have to fight violence with violence. So trying to raise his kids to not fight violence with violence while they're around like street gangs and stuff, and they're trying to stay away from that world. And like it's really sad because it's kind of this like. They kind of live this upscale kind of lifestyle, and he expects a lot from his kids, and they're supposed to really set the example, and they're supposed to be like, kind of like valedictorian level and that kind of thing. But then at the same time, they live in a city where it's impossible to get away from gangs, and so like it's hard to really live that lifestyle. And
that's interesting because one of my biggest things I think for both of us looking at the trailer was, why does this show exist when Luke Cage exists? What can this show bring to the table on the CW?
It's Luke Cage if he had a family.
Well, just from what you're telling me, it sounds like it's dealing with similar issues, but from a different perspective, and I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, and so I don't know what you'll think about this dynamic, but it's a guy who is divorced from his wife. We have that, but they have a really good chance at getting back together if only he doesn't put the costume back on, which is a little different than how we usually play it. And what I really like is she's really reasonable. So like she would like to put their family back together, but they have this flashback of him like bleeding out in a bathtub.
Wow.
And she's and he's like he's like I'm sorry, I have to go out and do this, and she like kisses him in the bathtub. It's like really sad with like blood everywhere. It's really sad, and actually kind of bought it. And then at the end of this episode, in order to go save his daughter from gangsters, he has to put the costume back on and go beat Black Lightning again, and she gets it and is totally behind him for at least that one mission, and then at the end of the episode, it's like, well, I'm sorry, I can't stop, I have to keep doing this, and I get the sense that she's not gonna be Laurel, that she's gonna continue to be kind of reasonable about it, so that's really, and like the thing is, it's really hard to play with these tropes and not do the same thing every time, and like even if it's really well handled, it's hard for me not to feel like I've been here 100,000 times, with like the girlfriend or the wife that like you know, can't be around because you're putting, you know, your superheroing, your selflessness above your family, which is selfish in its way, and you know that whole thing. But so I'm not gonna say it felt like super fresh, but it was competent.
Which is more than that trailer looks.
Even a little bit better than competent. I liked him a lot. Like I thought he carried his show pretty. You know, he like holds his own and has a lot of presence. And
if you watch a couple more and say it keeps up, I might give it a try.
Yeah. I don't know if you would like it as well as I did. And like there has been there, done that, most certainly. And there's some like you know current social political stuff. I think maybe it lays on a little bit too thick, but I expect a lot more of that. And I don't think it's super preachy. I'm not sure how I feel about some of that stuff yet, but yeah, it's not terrible. And the girls playing his daughters are really good.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I was actually kind of glad I watched it. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Next episode, I'll probably talk more on Altered Carbon. I've watched 2 episodes. I adore it. I'm not gonna say anything else. So far, I adore it. We'll see what happens, but I intend to watch the rest of that show.
Cool. Well, we're going to move on now with the omnibus that he made me watch. If you're just watching this as its own video, thanks a bunch for watching. Sure appreciate it. Looking forward to reading your comments.